Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Shot clock down to 4. Siakam crosses over Wayne, fires, and hits again. Shot clock at 8. Edwards pulls the trigger and knocks down a 3-ball. Edwards wrap around to Gobert for the slam. Jones hammers it, shielded by Wall. A chance, they score! That's Carter for Hagee! Evans pushes a fly ball to right center field. Carroll racing back to the wall. That one will go! Oppo pop from Mookie Betts. Ravi clubs one in the air to center. Isbell goes back. It is gone! Oh, God. Absolutely crushed by Devers.
Did you see where that hit? Did you see where that landed? That ball is demolished.
Line towards center field, and it's going to drop in there for a base hit. Elixir scores. Silva rounding second. He's at third. Josh Overbeek, a big 2-out single, and we're tied at 1 in the 7th.
At least 2 strikeouts. She has been remarkable. Cammonson gives it a ride over to right field. It's off the wall. Bland scores. Kuzak coming around, and Nebraska has cut the lead to 1. All of a sudden, Cammonson shoots Nebraska back into this one.
I told the team after the UCLA game, I thought we really needed not a loss, but we needed a game with that kind of competition, and I felt like it was a primer to what we're going to face in postseason.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
How we doing?
Oh, we're doing all right.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't love how we sound early, but that's all right.
No, it's fine. So I think you probably get it to some degree because you have a significant other and you have pets, and so occasionally you'll come home, or maybe you're the culprit because you're kind of a heathen to yourself and a little uncouth.
Who, me?
Where you may come back to a situation and it's nowhere near how you left it.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm familiar with that.
So, I mean, sometimes, again, of course, it's never me at our house.
At my house, it's probably me like 90% of the time.
It's always someone else.
Being honest, yeah.
But, yeah, that's kind of how I feel every time we come back to the sports bar.
It's true. It's kind of a little, you're just rolling the dice and just spinning the wheel, see what happens.
So here's the thing. This is where my maturity has finally kicked in.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, after 50 years, I now laugh it off.
Good for you.
I don't at home.
Yeah.
But I do here.
Well, that's something.
Man, these people walk around our house with their eyes closed. It's like, hey, is this how it was? Oh, man, you see.
What had happened was.
And so now it's just, what was the question?
Well, you got to understand, though.
Exactly. I feel like people are out here on crack.
Well, also, that actually is a good drop, Shane, because I think what a lot of people see when they're either, whether at their work or at home or whatever, if it doesn't affect them, then they're just like, oh, that's cool.
And I think, and I got a couple that are on the right track. We'll see how it turns out, but just give it the once over. Just look over your shoulder and just
a little look-see. Just a quick one.
Quickie. Is this how I left it?
Or is how I found it?
No, it could be either.
Okay, because that's usually it's like
no. Here, I'm glad you learned clarification.
Yeah.
When you lack self-awareness, you make it about you. So you have to ask the question, is this how I left it? If you are concerned about others,
you ask, this
is how I found it.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
Right.
That makes sense.
Oh, I've given this thought for years.
Clearly you've gone through this.
Years. But do you know where it started from? Actually, it started from over there in Maple Village at my mom and dad's, but it was intensified in the locker rooms.
Sure.
Being in locker rooms.
Yeah, because those will get away from you in a hurry.
Really teach you how to So I come by my, people, he's just so OCD. No, I mean, it's kind of clean. Like
locker room's getting nasty.
Hey, and if I make the mess,
yeah,
I want to pick it up.
You should probably take care of that.
Right. I do not want you to be. That's not your burden to bear, right?
Yeah.
I get it. I get it, man. You see me pick up stuff out here, and
that's just because you don't want to be around people. You come around
no,
here.
No, that's not. See,
that's part of it.
I wouldn't mind being.
Just a little bit.
I wouldn't mind being around more people if more people were other centered.
Sure.
Does that even remotely make sense?
No, I get it.
So, I mean, if I'm going to have to worry about all the variables of whether people care or not, why add any more variables to my life?
It's funny that you bring that up. Because,
why? Like hee ha ha or different?
No, like ironic. Because we didn't discuss this at all. I had like a little mini, I don't want to say breakdown yesterday.
Oh, do tell.
But I had kind of
now wait a minute. Before you finish.
Yeah.
Is this like where you torch the whole place like you do work and, and your colleagues?
I was by myself.
Oh, okay. So you only hurt yourself.
So I'm just sitting there. It's like that's why I said it's a mini breakdown. Like I'm mostly just thinking about stuff.
Because I've seen you burn the whole forest down in here before.
And it kind of gets away from me a little bit. And it's all just happening in my own head.
Because it's all in my head.
All right, Timmy McGraw.
I can't do picture.
But, you said you'd like being around people a lot more if they were other-centered.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of having this existential crisis yesterday because I'm reading through, and we'll talk to Sam McKewon. He'll be back today at 8 o'clock. I'm reading through Sam's Rewind.
Mm-hmm.
And it addresses.
I like a good rewind.
And it addresses this article that ESPN wrote about Scott Frost returning to UCF that they wrote last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and reread the Scott Frost article.
Just can't shake him. It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, and so I was trying to figure out, this is why I was having a little bit of a crisis of confidence or whatever you want to call it, right? My little mini breakdown.
So I stopped saying incredible, so you're going to stop saying existential crisis.
I'm going to do my best.
All
we're going to get on lockdown here.
Hey, do you have a thesaurus?
Not on me. On the internet, you've got kind of everything.
It means plant eater.
Well, you got to understand, though.
And if you eat meat, then you're a carnivore.
That's a different thing. I think you're thinking of an herbivore.
Herbivore?
Like Uruguay.
By the way, they rot it in soccer. But anyway,
they've had their moments. But so I'm sitting there, and I'm reading through Sam's thing. I'm reading through the ESPN thing. And I'm trying to figure out, what do I actually – because I was feeling some kind of way. As you can imagine.
What time of day was this?
This was yesterday afternoon.
Okay. Is this Juice World?
Well, I don't know what that means.
Are you lucid?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't have
I can't hear Huddles in my room. And I can't.
But even if I wasn't,
Shane, do we have any Juice World lucid?
He's got one song on there.
No,
just the one.
That's a good song though.
I know, but he's got one song. He's got that one Lamar song. That's it.
Wow.
It's the only song he's done.
All right, I don't even want to distract you, but go ahead.
He's got the mustard song. That's all it is.
That's not the song.
Yeah, he does. That's the one he's got.
He's got the mustard song?
Yeah, I know that's what it's called, but that's what I call it.
Are you talking about Turn the TV Off?
No, he's got the Lamar. He's got the Kendrick Lamar song.
Who are we talking about?
Shane. That's the only song he has on there.
Oh, I kept thinking you were talking about my man in Juice World. You're talking about
in the system.
You're talking about Shane.
He doesn't have Juice World because he just has the Kendrick song.
Thank you.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
But no, so I'm sitting there.
I know a lot of people that use as few words as possible, and I try to explain. It just doesn't work. Give me more. As my man.
I thought I gave you enough.
DJ Razach would say.
I don't think it's how you pronounce it.
Tell me more. And then you're in trouble.
Get you on the leather couch, the whole thing.
No, he likes clarity.
Yeah. No, I think
that's why. Yeah, I
think that's important.
Yeah, it alleviates a lot of.
But I'm sitting there. I'm reading through Sam's article. I'm reading through the ESPN article again, and obviously, a lot of people, myself included, feel a certain way about Scott Frost and his time in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sitting there reading through this, and I'm trying to figure out what I actually want from him. Right? Do I just want my pound of flesh? Because sometimes I am that guy. Do I just want him to come out and say, and take accountability, or what. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what I want from Scott Frost, because whatever it was, I didn't get from the article, right? And so I'm sitting there and I go, I'm really searching within myself more than I am trying to figure out Scott Frost's motives, because I'm trying to figure out what I want, because I'm unsatisfied reading that article.
Self, I say.
And I go, I think, and I do this all the time. I just want people to tell the truth. I just want you to tell the truth, and I want you to say it out loud. Because I read that article, and I think what finally bothered me about it was the same thing that bothered me about much of Scott Frost's time here. And I'm not even rooting for him to fail at UCF. I really don't care. That doesn't matter. What bothers me is it still doesn't seem like he understands, and maybe he does and just doesn't want to talk about it. That's fine. But in the few public comments we've gotten from him, whether it was the Dennis Dodd thing last year or the ESPN thing or whatever it is, it still doesn't really seem like he understands that a lot of this was his fault. Like, a lot of the problems were self-inflicted. Not all of them, but a lot of what happened here was on him. And, in the article he goes to say, well, this is what a lot of other people wanted for me. And, this place is kind of a meat grinder. It's not like this everywhere. And all these things. And not once have I ever heard him say, like, yeah, it could have been better.
Yeah.
I think that's at the end of the day. That's all I want from him. And again, I don't care if he wins or loses at UCF. I think he's actually a pretty good football mind. I don't know how that translates to being a head coach again. But I sit there and I go, why can't you just one time, and this is what I told you 7 years ago now, almost 6, I think, when we're having this conversation on air, the first time we've ever really talked to each other, and you're trying to figure out why I'm so out on this idea that he could turn it around, because we're 2.5 years in at that point of the Scott Frost era. And I go, I don't think
I like how you painted that with every advantage of the conversation possible.
What do you mean?
So you're leaving, and I get it for the sake of telling the story, but what I said is if you continue to surround yourself, you pieced out some of your staff.
Yeah.
You've tried to change some of your admin. You got new leadership now. Maybe the model behavior, you can have some guidance in terms where you can reflect on what you could do differently.
And what did I say?
And you said, well, you didn't hear any of that.
No, I heard it.
You heard it. You just didn't listen. You heard it.
No, I heard it. I didn't think it would matter. There's a difference.
You're like, I don't think he cares enough.
No, I said I don't think he has the self-awareness enough.
Yeah, well, I mean,
because that's different. I think.
Sure.
It can
when you
be.
don't know the catalyst. Yeah.
It can be
I won't split hairs over that.
So I go, I don't think he's got self-awareness enough to understand or to absorb all the things around him. Right? Because you can put yourself around the best people in the world. If you don't have the self-awareness enough to say, maybe I'm part of the problem, then none of that fixes anything.
Like the guy that always complains about his roommates or
he's like, oh man, I've had 8 terrible bosses in a row. And it's like, statistically, that seems unlikely.
Sure.
It seems a lot more likely that you're one bad employee.
Or you're on your 4th team.
Yeah, you're on your 4th team or your 4th wife or whatever. Like, once it had, like,
whoa.
I mean, we're on 4 combined between the two of us.
Yeah.
But, like, once or twice, like, we'll give it a go. But
snip it in the butt at 3.
After 2, like, I'm just not doing it again.
Oh, I hear the third time's a charm.
Like, if I get more than 2, like, I'm out. But
it's a you problem.
Yeah, like, it probably is a me problem, and I'm not putting that on anybody else at that point, right?
Call that projection.
But I like at some point,
this coach hates me. I'm gonna.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go to a different school.
My Pee Wee coach hated me. My junior high coach hated me. The JV coach hated me. The varsity coach hated me. I transferred. That coach hates me. All these coaches suck. And it's like, wait a second. Hold on a minute. So if you trade out,
let me put some thought.
If you trade out Bill Moose for Trev Alberts, and you trade out, Coach Walters for Bill Moose and whoever, or not for Bill, for Mark Whipple and whoever else, and you're going, okay, why? Oh, none of these guys, the guy hired from the credit union, none of these guys can coach football.
Now that's a little harsh.
I can't remember his name.
Lubick?
Yes, there we go, Lubick. He's still coaching college football. That's unfair to him. I apologize.
Yeah. Shout out Centrus. I mean,
listen, they've got great financial experts. I don't think I'm hiring any of them to be my OC. You know what I mean?
Shout out Centrus.
So that was unfair to Lubick, but it was still funny. But like, no matter who he surrounded himself with, it was kind of just like, hey, maybe it's a me problem here.
Yeah.
And I think that's still what I get from the article. Now, maybe he's gone to therapy, maybe he's gone a lot of counseling, maybe he's like done some introspection and figured some things out, and he's just not going to talk about it. That's fine. But when you've got like a pretty public failure like that, like that's part of the problem I have with whether it's coaches or anybody in a public position, right? We have these people that they'll have these huge public failures, but then they want to deal with things privately later. And it's like you kind of gave up that option to a certain degree.
I go back and forth on some of that a little bit. Number one, I think the whole public versus private thing, I don't think you get to have.
It's hard. Let me just start there. It's really hard.
You don't have to like Timmy Couch it. I'm saying it depends on the whole public, what happened in public.
Sure.
Like if it's a public meltdown, if it's a public tongue lashing, if you bring somebody else into it,
sure,
publicly,
yeah,
you typically should not be afforded the luxury to apologize or handle it privately.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Now, with what you're talking about, sure, there's probably some overlap, but the internalization of where the failure probably was, maybe that's just not a public matter, or maybe we just haven't felt comfortable enough in the public forum to get down to the nitty gritty privately. Because I could see in a world, now you're gonna be like, this damn DB and this good piece of cheese.
Oh, I'm ready for the piece of cheese. I've been waiting for it.
Now sometimes you will tell yourself,
Bill,
idiot, that either
Selfish.
people don't care enough or the audience isn't ready.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Oh, I knew you wouldn't, but I'm just.
So here's why.
I'm just telling you, when you're insecure,
sure,
sometimes it's hard for you to fathom that people really care about the root cause, or as some people like to say, rut.
So my negative, pessimistic, the whole sandwich is rotten view of that.
The whole what?
The whole sandwich is rotten view of that. Just to like, I know I come from a very different viewpoint than you. So like I'm accepting that. And I'm not saying you're right or I'm right, but I'm saying this is why I view it differently. Is my very pessimistic view of that is I don't believe that the root cause matters. Like if you're in that situation.
That individual?
Yes. Like when I see it from the outside looking in, when I see them not take responsibility for something publicly, when the failures or whatever was public, then what I see is they don't care about the root cause.
So,
which I agree, I understand is not necessarily the case.
I'll kind of push back on that because I think sometimes people aren't ready to openly discuss the root cause, right? Like it's,
and I have no way of telling if they're not openly ready or if they're not willing or capable to go there.
Listen,
like from the outside, I can't tell.
As a guy who has spent time being self-destructive, sometimes it took a while to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm so insecure about this, or I worried so much about this, or I'm too this for this and not enough for like that takes time.
No, I know.
Right? So,
and I probably
you have to understand that the audience, it's not even so much that they care, it's that like the platform is right. So I'm not saying you need to sit down or a tell-all book, but I think at some point some reflection is going on, and maybe I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I wouldn't even be entertaining this conversation on a Monday after this weekend, except for I just had this very same conversation. Although this one was kind of through a message board, it was a very similar deal where I said, and this is funny how this works, because I didn't even think the guy was going to be good here. And I was vilified for saying it out loud.
At the time,
I told every single one of you what I felt like the issues could be. When you come with certain foibles and you bring them to another place, and that other place is a birthing ground for what ails you, you're going to have to insulate yourself.
Yeah.
Like I said, oh man, he's jealous. He doesn't. Look, man.
Like certain,
I swear I'm not.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the setup of the false sense of how it could really go, because I've seen this place eat up lesser man.
Mhm.
Like I'm well aware, right?
Yeah.
Of how difficult a job.
And you've been
this
very
is.
consistent on that.
I'm
very consistent on that.
For as long as I've done this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, you can do that with the prodigal son,
Mhm.
and it is going to be tough.
Mhm.
And I had just talked to him a couple
Especially
weeks
when he's
before,
wired a certain way.
right?
Yeah.
Which is ultimately what kind of matters the most.
Yeah, because it's his. I'm going to call them weaknesses. I'm not, but his the things he struggles with.
Let's just go with foibles.
Sure, the things he struggles with versus the potential pitfalls at Nebraska lined up unfortunately well.
Yeah, so I'm having this conversation, and at the end, I'll be completely honest. I did not I didn't really fight it. I didn't fight the consensus.
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, all right, I can understand that. I don't have much to pick apart there. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, what I'm cheering for and what I'm championing is, or what I was really bothered by, I don't love the advantage of revisionist history.
Sure.
And so my point was, it was not a bad hire.
I agree.
Now,
no, I do agree.
So
that it wasn't a bad hire. It went poorly, but it was the hire you had to make.
So, I went into this, what does the failure mean? Was it the hire? Was it what happened while they were on the job? And it was worded pretty eloquently by this particular gentleman. And, he's like, at some point you just have to come to grips that it was a poor job. I said, no, I've come to grips with that, and I acknowledge it. What I'm just telling you is at the time it was not a bad hire. Mm-hmm. And he basically was like, listen, man, if you don't do well at your job, it's ultimately not going to be a good hire.
So you can make the right decision and not get the right results.
I didn't want to get into the weeds, especially over script.
Sure.
Right, it's a nuanced conversation. And truth be told, I don't care enough.
Yeah.
Right, like I don't care. Like I only have so much good energy, mm-hmm. and I can't be wasting it on somebody that doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah,
right. We do too much of that, man. It's like, well, you see it a lot in athletics. Well, this player did this, and man, this player's getting this kind of love, or this player's getting this kind. What does that have to do with what you need to do? Mm-hmm. Or, well, did you hear what this guy said about me? Hey, man, is he coaching you?
Yeah.
Do they have any impact? That's why I'm huge on my number one thing about why I like young people and dealing with young people is I want to put you together in such a way. This is pseudo narcissistic.
Okay.
The wrong pronoun, want to put you mm-hmm. together in such a way where this sounds great, right? You can thrive anywhere.
Yeah.
I want to equip you with the tools that you need where you can be dropped into any environment mm-hmm. and function at a high level. So I want you to have all the skills so you can dictate the environment so the environment doesn't dictate you. I don't want to be at this school. They treat me, mm-hmm. hey, what are you doing to minimize or to neutralize the variables? Mm-hmm. Right? Because at the end of the day, my guy, that's really the only thing that you can control.
Right.
And what happens in this job, in jobs in particular, with this kind of audience and resources and fanfare, what happens is you can get a false sense of security because you can be okay in the meantime. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you could be rotting to your core, and it sneaks up on you. Mm-hmm. So when somebody says to me after a year and a half, hey, man, I can't believe I compromised this, that, and the other for short-term gain.
To try and win early.
I wish I could go back and get that. Mm-hmm. See, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, man, a little bit of little bit of self-awareness there.
Because you told me that, that's the only reason I'm even entertaining the idea that he may have dealt with this privately.
Now, some of the other stuff, I don't know. Like, yeah. I can't speak to it.
No.
But I do.
Yeah.
Like, leave it. Like, everybody was so mad at Callahan. And I'm like, you know what he said this place will eat itself alive if you're not careful. You mark my words.
Mhm.
I was like, hey man, I know you're mad, and I get it. You won't rock the colors. It's gotten kind of petty. People were mean to you, but I'm not buying it. But he said it, and then I watched Bo on his way out,
Yeah. No, he's not wrong.
and I was like, damn. And then I kind of watched Riley.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, he didn't really have a chance. Again,
He never really had a chance.
I give him, he gets grace because
He inherited the worst position of anyone.
and he had the worst leadership.
That's part of what I mean.
So
Right. Like not just football wise.
and he got the most divisive fan base
Because of half the fan base didn't want Bo fired.
I think he got the most divisive fan base.
He had the worst situation by far.
So, and then the next guy, it's like, come on, man, you knew.
Mhm.
You just didn't surround yourself with, like, he had every opportunity to.
He was equipped with the information to deal with it better.
And he could have put together.
And
He
chose
could
not
he
to.
could have put it together any way he wanted to.
Yeah.
He could have had this guy. He could have had this guy. He could have had this guy.
Mhm.
Like, the world was your oyster.
Yeah.
So that's the part where I won't. That's the part where I'm like, all right, I can't really defend it. I do know some of the things that came to light with how he felt he could have done differently.
Mhm.
You know, the staff and picking safety and trust over best available. Like,
Mhm.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
like, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
But it's also the reason why I think Coach Rule is very successful. It's going to be very successful because he looked at all. He's talked to every last one of these dudes, with the exception of maybe Callahan. That I can't speak to. I think he'll say that there's some parts that Bo was right about. I think he'll say there's some parts that Mike was right about. I think he'll say there's some parts that Ice Cold was right about. I don't know if he's talked to Callahan.
We know he's talked to Frank though.
But 100%.
Yeah. We know he's talked to Frank and Tio.
Talk. Yeah. So what he did was he just did some fact finding, and I think he knew there's a difference between him putting his staff together to get by initially
Mhm.
and what he ultimately wanted his staff to look like.
Sure.
He was well aware of that from the minute he took the job, which I felt like was pretty self-aware.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you're outwardly saying to guys, hey, listen, you're only going to be here for a little bit
like
of time.
2 years and pop, right?
You're not openly saying that, but I think when these guys are coming on staff and gals,
Mhm.
hey, this is what we're after early. After that, we'll reevaluate.
Well, he kind of even did it with one of his dudes, Sean Patton, right?
Yeah.
Where he goes, hey, this is a 1-year job. And then now he found different 1-year job where Sean Patton would be useful, right? But what he brought him in to do and what he's doing now are not the same thing.
Yeah.
He very easily could have moved on at that point
It's very self-aware.
Like it's sort of these like, hey, we have a project to complete. When your portion of the project is done, you may or may not still be here.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like a lot of big corporations operate that way.
Yeah,
They bring people in for a 2-year project.
Just like the
or
way
whatever.
that he's retooled the recruiting department versus the talent department versus the acquisition. It's very, very fluid. And it's the only reason that I ever say, and a lot of people don't really know what I'm talking. Shocker, they don't really know what I'm talking about because I don't even know what I'm talking about. But when I say at some point, when he wins, because I believe they will, one of the things that we're going to undersell is his malleability, his ability to adapt and to just kind of roll with it, because he happens to be partnered with an administration that is very similar in how they can just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand. I don't think we understand how hard that is to do. Because we'll just take, I can't take my own principle. I was going to take Dr. Dostal. Let's take Bill. For as smart as he is, and as many entities as he's been a part of in terms of being successful, if he came in with the mindset that I've done it this way before and this has worked, I'm doing it the same way here, he'd be in trouble. It's the ability to adapt and to roll with the punches that don't compromise what your core essence is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people like that have success. See, the environment is not going to dictate his behavior. He's got the core principles that are instilled that allow him to be dropped into different sort of stressors, and he can function like that because of kind of the essence of who he is. So I say all that fancy psychobabble to say it doesn't matter if you're at Family First or Allegiant or Allstate or your own company or Prep or Westside or Mutual, or when the environment starts to unroot or supersede like the core, you're always going to be in trouble to which way the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
You just are. So it's like, I don't need him to say, hey man, I did this, and this. Because I think whether he makes that outward admission or not, we're in a better place. So it makes it easier for me to swallow.
Sure.
If we were still struggling, and we're nowhere near where we want to be as a program, right? But I don't need to have you
trending the right direction.
Yeah, like, and people that are having success, they don't do that. Like, I don't need to hear Mac talk about the infrastructure of the athletic department at Creighton.
Yeah, it's why I've largely,
you know what I mean. I don't.
It's why
I don't. Without getting in those weeds, I'm just saying, like.
It's why I've largely gotten over the Trev Alberts thing. Like, I'll still take my pot shots because I think it's funny, but I think Troy Danon's better at this job.
Yeah,
I just do.
And I don't know about what I do know.
Yeah,
one thing I think Troy is better built for the long haul of this landscape.
Yeah,
because he's not as rigid philosophically.
Yes,
but I will say this: without Trev's foresight,
sure,
and being a forward thinker, Danon comes into a much more difficult spot. So you got to give the devil his due. But I mean, Trev was right about a lot. You just didn't like the way that he handled it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he clearly was right about a lot.
He was right about a lot. I think he was wrong about some stuff as well. But it's the same thing.
See, you sound like my wife. That's not like, why did you have to get that?
Because
I didn't say he was right about everything.
Right.
I said he was right about some stuff. Well, he's wrong about some stuff too. Like, see, that lets me know you're not digesting what I'm saying. You're looking for the counter argument.
No, I am digesting what you're saying, but I wanted to move on.
Because I didn't say he was right about everything.
But I wanted to move from Trev to another guy that was wrong about a lot, but without his foresight, we're also in a much different spot. And that's a guy that is universally hated in Sean Eichhorst. Without his financial foresight, Nebraska's in a very different place.
I understand.
You know what I mean? So, like, that can be said about a lot of people.
I'm cool with that.
And Trev did some things right. I'm not going to argue with that. Like, he did some things well.
But
he hired Rule, and I love Rule.
Listen, you're talking to the king of the eat the meat and spit out the bones guy.
Yeah.
I don't have to get in the weeds with you.
Like, Sean Eichhorst probably should have been a CFO rather than an AD.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, I'll take that from him and that from her. And I get it, right?
Yeah.
What a good piece of cheese. No, but I mean, not everybody. A lot of people have some qualities that I could find useful, even though we may not be in agreement all the time.
Here's the reason that I find it necessary to bring up the other side of the coin, whether it's the positive side of the coin with Sean Eichhorst or the negative side of the coin with Trev Alberts, is I feel like, and it's kind of the thing I'm talking about with Scott Frost here too, is I feel like if we sometimes we'll paint a narrative about something, and not necessarily saying that's what you were trying to do, but I think it can be heard that way, is we'll paint a narrative about something, and then all of a sudden, you know, this ESPN thing comes out about Scott Frost. It's like, oh man, Nebraska is a hard place. That's a really tough job.
Oh, you're going into protective mode.
Yeah, because
I understand.
Because it's like, okay, listen, some of those things could be true. And I said this when Trev left. I go, I get it's a harder job than some places, but I also thought you were built for it. Like, there's also some things where it's like, okay, yeah, Nebraska can be a meat grinder. You're going to tell me that Alabama's not a meat grinder? You're going to tell me that LSU you think Brian Kelly doesn't think LSU's a meat grinder right now?
You should have started with this, because for as much as people think you hate Nebraska, you are ultra protective of
I am
what you think it could be.
You've
argued with me about recruiting. You're the guy that lobbies for top 12.
Yeah.
Can be at the CFP
in a year.
Like, No, you should have started with that because you're taking it personal.
I do take it personal. And it's the same thing when Trev left. It's the same thing with Frost and trying to pin it all on Nebraska because it's not just, and I've said this before, I like the state more than I like the university. And I love the university. But I like being from here and being from where I'm from more than I like the university because I don't have, aside from growing up here, I don't have an attachment to the university. I didn't go there. Like, I rooted for them, obviously. I still do. But my attachment is to this place, right? And what bothers me is the University of Nebraska is the most public thing anyone outside of here knows about this place. And if you're constantly taking a dump on the University of Nebraska, whether you're Trev Alberts, whether you're Scott Frost, whether you're anybody else, then you're taking a dump on the front porch of this state. Yeah. And that's where we're going to have problems. So you can tell me, he did this good and he did that good. Like, after he pooped on the front porch, he came inside and cleaned the house. Like, that's cool. I get that. He still pooped on my front porch. You know what I mean? Like, he could come in and clean the toilet, but he took a dump on the front porch. It doesn't matter that the toilet's clean. It stinks when you walk in now. Like, that's the problem that I have with, like, a Scott Frost and a Trev Alberts. Like, I need you to acknowledge, like, yeah, I dropped a 2 when I walked in. And then I did my best after I got there, but it was pretty messy already from some of the stuff that I did. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I would like you to say. Like, hey, it's a great house. It's not perfect. Probably needs some updates. That's cool. But really didn't help that I dropped a deuce when I walked in the door. That's where I start to have a problem because nobody wants to say that. And maybe they don't have to. He's still got a job. That's fine. Like, whatever. Trev's got a job down at Texas A&M, although they don't seem to be in love with him either. You know, like, they're all going to get new jobs, and it's fine, and they're going to be fine. But it matters to me because I'm still here, and I'm still going to be here.
Yeah. I hope you had some toilet paper on your front porch.
I don't. That's the problem. That's why it's so messy now. And he walks around with his poop smeller on him, and he's trying to tell me it's my fault because my bathroom wasn't clean when he got there. It's like, yeah, you didn't even make it to the bathroom, bud. Well, I'm out here on the porch.
I hear you.
That's my problem. And that's where I
and I think
I'm not going to let the negatives go.
It's very similar to the conversation I was just having this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly some different analogies.
Sure.
I should read it to you, but I don't have permission. Because
sure.
I don't know if you can just take information from there. It was well written.
Yeah.
His response to me was well written.
Yeah.
And I just found myself, at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm probably just... Go ahead.
Good piece of cheese guy.
Good piece of cheese guy.
You know, part of this is your fault.
Why?
Because
this ought to be good.
2 years ago, and I was leaning this way already, but like 2 years ago when we started doing this, all the time, and you'll know it as soon as I say it. You tell me this thing all the time, and you get mad at me about it. You said, "Don't let people off the hook." You said, "Don't let people off the hook, Ravi." It's you could call them out on it, like. Don't let them off the hook. Mm-hmm. So you know what? I'm not letting people off the hook anymore. I've got these things that I believe in. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but you're talking about core principles. One of mine is, hey, tell the truth and say it out loud.
So I think for me, it's twofold, and I'm not going to defend it because I understand. Mm-hmm. I can eat it. Part of it is if you're not willing to say it out loud yourself, though. So, like I could tell you about a situation that I haven't had success in, and I've got to own it, right?
Yeah.
I can talk about being benched and say, you know what?
Yeah,
I didn't really prepare very well. Or I could talk about, not staying in a relationship and saying, you know what? I'm not going to talk about what happened to me. I'm just going to talk about the choices that I made.
Sure.
Right? So part of me saying that is don't let them off the hook is I wouldn't let myself off the hook either.
Absolutely.
But some of it is to my detriment. So there's balance there, right? Because sometimes I'll just have a hard time forgiving myself.
For sure.
So there's balance there, but that's the context in which I say that.
Right.
Like sometimes if you get people that are just that far in denial, or the other thing is the context you're missing is, or didn't add to is, sometimes like when you're having these conversations and you're trying to fix something, like don't just say, oh, that's just such and such.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just how they are. Oh, hey, man, you know such and such. That's just how they are. or that's just how fans are, or that's just how their administration is, or now you know what that school is like. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we do have to. So that's the context. And when I say
no, for sure, but
I don't mean
yeah.
Barry Patino because he won't throw his starter under the bus and why he benched him the last 5 minutes because you know why he said that.
See, that's where we will forever disagree on that because I don't think everyone knew the context of why. Like I think that's a fair question to ask.
Okay,
and I think it's fair to because I'm glad you brought that up because I do kind of put that all in the context of like we do, and maybe Patino in that instance shouldn't. But in general, we do let coaches off the hook for being like, it's coach speak. They're not going to tell us anything. Or
is that why you were riding with Cronin? Because that sucked too.
Part of it, yeah. Because he said the thing out loud that everybody, like, you think everybody knows it's true. It's like, hey, my guys aren't playing very good. We're not doing this, this, and this. Like, he said it out loud. And is that the best way to handle it? Maybe, maybe not. But at the very least, he was honest.
I mean,
like,
it's a joke.
You know what I mean? Or like with Hurley and all of his like schadenfreude with acting like he's the victim in every single situation, and he doesn't understand why his teams are officiated differently when he coaches them to foul the crap out of people and then gets mad when they get called for fouls.
Which is why you hate Dion when he says, I mean, let's just be honest, man. If his last name wasn't Sanders.
Yeah. Like,
can I just
what
say,
does bolstered mean?
No, that's not the clip. That's not the clip that I'm talking about.
What's up, girl?
So whether it's
that's not it either.
Patino or Dion or Hurley or Frost, like I think people read that article and they're like, well, of course he's not going to say anything. It's like, but he still kind of did. He's like, I'm not going to talk about Nebraska. And he goes, but some other places are a meat grinder. Where else you been a head coach, Scott?
Now,
you think you're being like real secretive? Oh, some other places are a meat grinder. Was not calling plays as the OC in Oregon really that challenging? Like, was that the meat grinder we're talking about here?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Like, what are we talking about? If you're not going to talk about it, don't talk about it. Or it's like, oh, some other people wanted me to go back to that place. Really, it wasn't the fact that you went from $2 million a year to $5 million a year? That wasn't any part of it? It wasn't the fact that you were going to go hang out with all your friends and do all that kind of stuff and see all the people you went to college with? Like, that wasn't part of it? Don't act like you didn't play a role in the thing that happened here.
Yeah.
So that's like whether it's Frost or Hurley's a really good example of this. They're very different people, I think. But Hurley acts like he never played a role in the thing that happened or in the things that happened to him. That's my problem. Is it seems like Frost acts like didn't play a role in what happened here. Yeah, you did. Same with you, Trev. You played a role in what happened here. If you hadn't tried to put your thumbprints on everything and say, I want my legacy to be this, and we're going to do this, then maybe things would have worked out a little bit better with the people that were in charge of you and that you had to answer to. Like maybe if you were a little more malleable and adaptable instead of trying to put your footprint on everything and make it about what can Trev Albert's legacy be at Nebraska? This is my perception of what happened. I don't know. Like maybe things would have been a little bit different. Like own the role you played in this situation. I'll be the first one to tell you the role that I played in my first marriage not working out. Be happy to tell you. I've told a lot of people, right? I'll be the first one to tell you in like anything in my life that hasn't worked out. Happy to tell you whatever role I played, right? Because I can only control the role that I played. Whether that's a 1% role or a 99% role, I can only control that part, right? There's some situations where other people, I firmly believe, are like 90, 95% at fault. I can't control their 90%. I control my 10%. So I'm going to take ownership of that. And am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. But that's one of the things I care about. And in sports, we're really, really bad at this. We're really, really bad at taking accountability for our part of the pie.
As part of your passion about this, and I'm going to get to the Nebraska thing in a second, but because it's sports, you think it should be easier than some of the stuff
in real life? Absolutely.
Okay.
You know how much easier it is to take responsibility for a football team losing than it is, yeah, my marriage ended and my family split. That's real life stuff.
Yeah.
Not games. Like, what's the bad thing that happened to Scott? And I get like personal life stuff happened at the same time, whatever. What's the bad thing that happened to Scott Frost because he lost games in Nebraska? He got paid anyway. He got a job with the Rams, and now he's back head coaching again. Like, what's the bad thing that happened? Right? People were mean to him? Like, that's not real life stuff. If you can't do this in sports, I don't believe you're capable of it in real life. Because that's why I think sports matter at the end of the day, is they help you learn how to do things in an easier environment so that you can do them in the hard environment. That's why you like coaching young kids, because you want to teach them how to have competitive stamina and how to endure and how to take responsibility for their piece of the pie and all these things, so that if they can do it on the football field, you hope they can do it when they're adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't do it on a field or a court or on a press conference, I have very little confidence you're a person I want to be around.
Part of it is the fact that you want Nebraska to be in a better position in 2020. Is there a correlation between Nebraska being in a better position in 2025 if you get your quote-unquote pound of flesh?
Absolutely not.
It's just the fact that you painted Nebraska and Nebraska's painted in this like this.
You pooped on our front porch. Knock it off.
It's impossible to win here or whatever.
Yeah. This place is a meat grinder. More than ever. Every single major job in college football is getting harder and harder. I don't believe for a second I'd go on these other message boards. Have you seen Texas A&M fans? They're nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama fans were calling for Saban's job at certain points.
Well, they already want their current coaches to.
Yeah, Kalen DeBoer had 1 year, and they're like, this ain't the guy. Okay, maybe we give it a second, coming off of the best head football coach of all time. Maybe we chill for a minute and see what this other guy can do. Like this, you can't convince me that those programs are easier to deal with than Nebraska. I don't believe it. I've been to some of those places. I've been to Texas a lot. Those people are nuts. Whether it's Texas or A&M or anywhere else, those people are crazy.
Texas is a powerful.
Nebraska is a much more hospitable place in general than a lot of those other places. I don't believe for a second this is a harder job because of the people here. I don't. And so when you try and paint that picture, and you try and paint the picture that it's hard to recruit here, and you try and paint the picture that it's not possible to win here at the highest level, I'm going to be out on you in a hurry, especially when you're not following that up with, like, yeah, maybe it is a little bit harder to recruit here, but also I probably wasn't organized enough in how I went about it. Or, yeah, maybe it is a little bit harder to win here. I also didn't do the best job of putting my staff together. I probably could have put myself in a better position to be successful, right? If you're going to tell me about what's wrong with Nebraska, that better be quickly followed by the role you played in this situation. Because that, to me, Nebraska offered, it's never followed by, oh, by the way, until we got to Coach Rule, it was never followed by, oh, by the way, the resources here are incredible. The fan support here is incredible. Whatever you feel about the sellout streak, like this place hasn't had an empty seat in 60 years, more or less, right? Like you can't tell. What's that? However you feel about it, however you feel about like legitimacy or whatever. Like we're at about 95% occupancy for going on 60 years now.
Yeah,
that's unusual in support. Like don't tell me all the bad things. Don't tell me I need to replace my HVAC and be like, oh, by the way, they did the gutters, the windows, the roof, and the siding. Didn't get to the HVAC yet. I'm mad about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't give me the laundry list of the to-dos and not give me the list of, oh, these are things they already done and I didn't do much with it. Like, that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like relationships. A lot of times you only get credit for the losses.
Yeah, it's one of the things that drives me crazy about relationships, whether it's like with like interpersonal, like friendships or spouses or whatever, is don't get like, I don't understand, and maybe this is a me problem. I don't understand.
This is incredible, though, by the way.
When someone will get furious at me for not doing something if they're not just as happy if that thing gets done. That doesn't make sense to me, just on a logical level. It doesn't. I brought that up with my first wife. It didn't go well. She got mad at me one time about not doing the dishes. At our first apartment, we didn't have a dishwasher. We had to do them by hand. And so she was out of town. I was going to go to a movie with the boys, and then I was going to go do the dishes after. She got back in town faster than I thought she was going to, so the dishes weren't done when she got home. Lost her mind. I go, listen, that's fine. You want to be that mad about it? Cool. But then you better be that damn happy when they're done and you don't expect them to be done. That argument did not carry with her.
Is that funny, Shay?
But I genuinely, to this day, don't understand it. I don't understand how you're going to be that mad about something that doesn't happen if you're not equally happy about when it does happen. I don't get it.
That's just code for being taken for granted.
That's why Well, I'm riding with Mick Cronin, even though everybody else hates on him. Because if I'm this mad about when it doesn't happen, I'm going to be happy when it does. I promise not to talk about Scott Frost the rest of the hour. The rest of the show.
Hungry dog gets the bone.
How about the rest of the year?
That's probably fair.
Is that cool?
I think I got it all out of my system. I think I'm okay now.
It's
I think it's good.
7:50.
Yeah, we should take a break.
It's good.
We got to talk to Sam.
I need to get my composure.
Might have exaggerated puking a little bit.
A little bit. By the way, are you surprised that cards cost so much?
Like,
are you
greeting
a card
cards?
buyer?
Not anymore. I used to be.
Okay.
I don't do greeting cards anymore.
Shane, do you still make your cards with crayons or do you buy them?
I graduated colored pencils.
Colored pencils are kind of overrated. They
Depends on what you're using them for.
They need to go between Crayolas, and they've upgraded. They have some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And actual stained silky markers. But it ain't colored pencils. I'm just gonna tell you that right now.
There's erasable ones in case you can't spell mother or whatever.
M-U.
In case you can't spell mother. Shane, you're a national treasure. Don't ever change.
All right, let's take a quick break here. We're going to get to Sam McKewon here in a few minutes because apparently I just blew through the whole first hour there. That's DB.
That might be a first.
I'm Ravi Lulla.
In my 18 years.
It certainly is not. I've done a crossover with you that lasted longer than this.
I said very little this time. Usually I'm contributing to the delinquency.
It's Hurrdat Sports Live. We'll be back here in just a minute.
Gosh, it's so good. It's just exciting. You got the blood flowing, man. Anything you can do for your boys, man. It's so exciting to see that and just be able to be in that opportunity, to be put in that position. You know, you had Swanee and somebody else in front of us who was just like, who got it done for us, man. And it's just like, praise Jesus for it all. And I'm just so thankful to be here with this team, and it's so exciting.
We haven't played at home all season, and our fans have been really hungry for it. We did play a game in Iowa that they traveled for, but anytime you can give out rings and raise a championship banner, it's special. And sure, we've been able to do it twice and been one of the winningest men's professional teams in North American soccer, and we don't take that for granted. But each one feels better and better. So really super excited for the fans and the players to get that hardware, and I made sure it's pretty special.
Designing it, what were things that you wanted out of the rings?
It was hard because we did a perfect ring a couple of years ago when we won, and we have some different iterations of the logo. So we wanted to do something commemorating the Players' Shield, which is winning the regular season, which in Europe is probably a bigger deal than winning the playoffs. Commemorating the two trophies and commemorating Omaha and our owl. So I'm excited to show you all, what it's gonna look like.
Command's a lot better. He's kind of settling in. He got really tested early in the season. I think he got to the point where he realized he needed to really grow and mature, or it was going to be somebody else's turn. And to his credit, the competitor kind of came out in him, and he's really just commanded the ball better. He's throwing more sliders, less curveballs as well, and the changeup's been a weapon. I think he's throwing that to right-handed hitters too, and it's helped him keep the ball in the ballpark a lot better.
At Centros Federal Credit Union, we have the tools and resources to help our members fulfill their financial goals. With a focus on building a stronger community for the next generation of leaders. Centros Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Yeah, I think it starts with starting pitching. Ty Horn obviously was great today, but he's been great the last 4 weekends, and I'm sure Brock will do the same tomorrow. So really, thing for us was just kind of playing team baseball. Throughout the year, it's we pitch good one game, then we wouldn't really hit well. We hit good, then we pinch well. So finally, at the end of the season, we're playing together as a team. I think it's been the big difference for us.
And on your senior day, embracing a different role and retiring every batter you faced today, what was your mindset coming out of the bullpen?
Yeah, just get the first batter. It's really all you can control coming out of the bullpens, and then after that, just keep cruising, stay on attack, throw strikes, and just finish them late.
Give me that cheddar, we getting Rico. Big bunny rolls like burritos. Give me that hot sauce, no pico. Give me that.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Hopefully you can do a better job of keeping your car on the road this morning than we did keeping the show on the road this morning, as we're a little off schedule already. But keep those eyes focused and straight ahead, and I'm sure you'll be able to manage it. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Coming up in just a couple minutes here, we'll talk to Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald, because it's already 8 o'clock.
The good Dr. Abby would like to ask you a question.
No, I saw it.
I wanted to, but I know why. Because you explained why.
I explained why. And
Shane, can we get the code, babe? Thanks, buddy.
And also, I hear people talking about this. I'm not on an island here. The guy we're about to talk to, Sam McKewon, wrote a whole thing about. This is obviously something people still care about. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't care about it, that's terrific. You've moved on faster than the rest of us. That I'm happy for you. But don't act like because you don't care about it, no one cares about it.
That's my favorite.
That's one of the things I hate the most about people. And there's a long list. But because I don't care about it, I mean, not to, never mind. I'm not going to poke that bear again. But there's stuff on TV all the time that I don't want to watch. And guess what? I just don't watch it. It's a huge burden for me to bear to just not turn it to that channel. But I manage almost every day. It's crazy. Just because you don't care about it doesn't mean no one else does. I don't know if you know this. You may or may not be the center of the universe.
Did you have anything good for dinner yesterday? I did not.
Yesterday, what did I eat yesterday?
Breakfast, lunch.
I went to lunch with my mom for.
Did you go to the spot
for Mother's Day? Yeah. We went.
I mean, can she hit a curveball?
No,
I get it.
No,
right? The menu fits.
I would say it's the dietary thing more than anything. They take really good care of her. She's got some food allergies and stuff that are pretty serious that they do a really good job making sure she's okay.
Okay.
So that's the place she knows is safe. So that's where we go.
Okay. Was it just the two of you?
No, it was me, her, my brother, his kids, and my sister.
Oh, okay.
So we had a seven spot there.
Ren and Stimpy. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Have you ever seen that cartoon? It's fantastic, by the way.
Speaking of fantastic, joining us now is Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald. Sam, how are you, bud?
Great. How are you?
Sam, I'm good. I feel like I shouldn't ask you about the weather, but I am. It's safe to say it's going to get a little too hot this week, right? Is there such a thing?
I don't know.
Jeez.
Yeah, it'll get a little too hot for mid-May, but come on. I mean, it's time.
For what?
So here's the thing, okay? So here's what we want. We want it to be hot this week.
Okay.
And then we want it to be just a little cooler for the state track meet next week. So next Wednesday and Thursday is when the Class A and B, competitors are. And there is a chance to be just an incredible day on Thursday, just incredible. And so what you hope is that the weather cooperates and that it's, you want it to be real hot for sprints, but you don't want it to be too hot for the 1600s that are going to be next week. And so you want it to be 70, 75, not too hot. And so let's get the heat out of the way this week. Then next week we can be more reasonable temperatures for the 400 and the 800 and the 1600. That's going to be, again, could be, historic next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, big distance guy with all the 4-minute miles, or what? What is that?
Right. Well, so we've got two guys, Juan Gonzalez and then Braden Lockquist from Gretna East, and they could both go under 4 minutes in the 1600. We don't know. They set the state records minutes from each other last week, running 406 and a 403. But the goal is to peak at the state track meet. They do not race against each other because one is an A and one is a B. So it could be that they got to set their own pace. They have to decide for themselves. They'll probably have to set their own pace. Too bad that they're not racing in the same race. But it should be a lot of fun. And hopefully, again, the weather cooperates. If it's 95 degrees for that race, it's pretty hard to sustain, in that kind of temperature. So it'll get a little hot this week. Plus, we get the Big Ten baseball tournament next week. So we want no rain next week. No rain.
Yeah. I like it. That will lead me to being on the diamond. But let me go over to softball first with Omaha and obviously Nebraska getting their seeds. I'll start with the Huskers. A 2. That's anytime you have an ace, a 2 seed is very, very dangerous for the 1. Do you like the setup?
Yeah, I think
and the bandbox too, by the way.
Of course, yeah. I think Nebraska can win that regional. It's going to need another pitcher to really step up alongside Jordy Ball, because Jordy's not going to pitch. Well, let's just say, for argument's sake, it goes 4 games, and it might. It wouldn't surprise me if Nebraska is in what amounts to a 3-game series with LSU. In other words, each wins 1, and then they play a winner-take-all game in the regional final. They're going to need They're going to need another pitcher, unless they plan on winning 12-11. So it becomes, okay, who's going to step up next to Jordy, and who's going to do that, because she can't pitch 4 full games. And Nebraska's got a great chance. They have, in my opinion, they have the best player in the country. I don't necessarily watch as much softball as some others do, but anytime you got that, you got a shot. And if they win, correct me if I'm wrong, they could match up against Oklahoma. Right? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of motivation there for Nebraska, and certainly for Jordy. And so I think it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. Softball is a heck of a lot of fun to watch.
It's incredible.
Oh yeah, for people who do not tune in until maybe the Big Ten tournament, the level of play, the speed of play, it moves briskly, and the level of defensive play, the level of reaction time that you have to make a play on defense. There's a good number of home runs, and the crowds are great. The crowds are just terrific. So I love college baseball too, for sure. But in college baseball, you need to have a staff, a real deep staff, and those, it's almost like a 72 to 96 hour march in college baseball when it comes to the regionals. In college softball, man, as we saw last year, UNO almost stunned everybody in a regional because they had a great pitcher, and UNO's got another great pitcher. She's not quite as good as Cameron was, but she's very, very good. In some days she is just as good. So UNO's got a chance too. They're a 3 seed, and they're probably the most dangerous 3 seed you can imagine because of their staff.
Well, Sam, you mentioned Omaha almost shocking everybody last year. If they shock everybody this year, They could also be on a collision course with Nebraska, which I think would be phenomenal.
It would be
unlikely, but phenomenal.
Very unlikely. They're going into I mean, it's unlikely. It's possible. It's unlikely. But again, like softball usually goes according to chalk, but there's some variance at times, and so you just got to have to see if UNO's up to it. They might have as good of a softball coach as anyone around right now.
Yeah,
he's done an incredible job of building that program, and UNO's going to have to keep. It's not easy, but they've managed to have 3 or 4 great teams in a row and great pitching. That's what it takes in high level softball. You do have to have great pitching, and you're not going to necessarily be able to hit your way to it. So looking forward to watching both teams, and Creighton's on the rise too. They obviously they're coming, and they had a really nice season too. So and they're getting a new stadium here this summer, so that's going to help them. They've been in an older stadium for a bit, so that's going to help them. And softball in this state is going. I think Jordy Ball's vision, and she's talked about this, is to see softball, really, really get going in the state, not just for Nebraska, but for preps and everybody. And I think that's happening. I think you give this thing another 10 years, and it's going to be in a place that resembles what volleyball has been able to do in the state. It's a pretty cool deal.
Let me ask you something, Sam. Are you in on momentum at this stage of a season in particular, and specifically baseball? Or will you allow yourself to think, what if this far into the season with the way Nebraska appears to be trending?
It's interesting. Nebraska baseball has at times gotten hot toward the ends of season. There's been a couple times when it hasn't been enough. People can remember a couple of Mike Anderson teams. I think Will had a team like that. But they do have a tendency to do this. They did it back in 21. They won the Big Ten that year, but they got better and better as that season went on, and they did it last year. I think it's possible. Got to win at least one, probably 2 at Purdue to make sure you're in the thing. But then once you're in the thing, and this is not a knock on Iowa at all. Iowa's probably going to win the Big Ten title. And kudos to them, as always. Good coach, good program. If that's your number 1 seed, and Oregon, who has been very inconsistent. I mean, they're good. They're great some weekends.
Hard to figure out.
Right. You got a chance to win the Big Ten tournament on your home turf. You really do. They got to get there, obviously. But once they get there, I give them as good of a chance as anybody there, because they will have a distinct home field advantage. And again, Iowa knows what it's like to play at Schwab, and so Iowa wouldn't be intimidated, and Iowa would bring a couple of thousand fans. I mean, Iowa, they'll get support. But if you're getting into a situation where it's Oregon or it's Washington or it's UCLA, none of these guys have been here in a while. I know John Savage has, and he can tell them about what it's like to play in the park. But it's not going to be normal for those teams. And, Schwab is it's just a bigger field. And so you have to play a little bit differently. And I think Nebraska's got a huge advantage if they make it. And Iowa's got an advantage too, because Iowa's played a lot there, and they know how to play in the park. So,
and they have a legitimate shutdown number 1 too, who can always get you off to a good start.
Iowa's terrific. I mean, they're a really good team. Again, I would not put them in the Indiana from a decade ago level. I think they're Iowa's going to make the NCAA tournament. Good for them. And but I don't think Nebraska's that far off. People should just be advised that Nebraska's record, and this is also in the Big Ten, it's to some degree shaped by Nebraska's choice to schedule quite difficultly in the non-conference. 1, 2, that non-conference schedule was followed immediately by a 9-day or 10-day trip to play UCLA and USC on the front end of the schedule, when those schools had not really had to leave. They were playing in nice weather all along, and Nebraska played 2 against Pepperdine and beat them in that process, and that's great. But that was a very hard setup for Nebraska. If you had changed that around a little bit and they went out to USC and UCLA 2 weekends ago, I don't think it looks the same. And so Nebraska chose to schedule hard, and then they got a hard Big Ten schedule to start the year. And I'm guessing that won't happen again. And nobody's going to make excuses in Will Bolt's program. They don't do that. He doesn't do that. I just feel like that affected them. And now they're past that, and you can tell they've figured out who they want to be, and it's going to be interesting at the end. They got to win a couple at Purdue, but if they do that, I do actually like their chances of making at least the semifinals in the Big Ten tournament.
Sam, want to switch over to Creighton on this one on the diamond as well. Obviously, they've been playing good baseball as of late. Took 2 out of 3 from Xavier over the weekend. But maybe the bigger story was Ed Service's last game at home for Creighton. How have you – this has sort of been an awkward situation this season. This isn't exactly the Coach Mack and Alan Huss version of a coach in waiting. It's a little different than that. How have you sort of processed Creighton's ability to navigate that situation and still be fairly successful this season, even though they probably still need to win the Big East tournament to get into the NCAAs?
Yeah, they've had a great season. I hope they make it irrespective of that. I think they deserved it. And, if this comes down to a deal where they lose to UConn, who's really good, by 1 run in the Big East final, I hope the committee recognizes what Creighton's done, irrespective of whether UConn gets in. UConn is a great program. So I think they've done a really good job of handling it. They've played their best baseball, in my opinion, in years. And, certainly that's been a storied program. And Ed did a good job of winning a lot of games over many years. I don't think anybody over there is going to necessarily say it. I just think moving to the Big East was a tough transition because of the travel and because you don't get the benefit outside of UConn of playing a lot of teams that are going to help your RPI. And so, when they were when Creighton was in the Missouri Valley, I think it was probably a stronger league at times. And so, that's been tough. But I think they've done a really good job of playing his kind of baseball. They don't beat themselves a lot. They're good in situations. They don't hit as many home runs as LSU, but they usually get good pitching and they play hard. They know how to get up for Nebraska. One of the reasons they match up well against Nebraska is Nebraska at times does try too hard and self-inflicted errors. And Creighton doesn't beat itself easily. And so teams that beat themselves, and Nebraska can do that, struggle against a Creighton team that knows how to play smart baseball. So, and that's not to say Nebraska doesn't. I'm just saying that Nebraska has a tendency, honestly, to try a little too hard. And they end up trying too hard and making a mistake or not executing. But Creighton does a great job of being who they are. Obviously, they made a coaching change of sorts, and he'll take over next year. I'm sure they hope that they can, recruit a little bit more power. And but you want to keep the execution part. Ed Service knows how to. His baseball teams know how to execute, and so. And I thought they've handled it really well. It doesn't seem like it's been a big issue this year. So kudos to him and an incredible career. And I'm sure there were moments in his career where he could have gone to another school after Creighton had some success, but he didn't do that. And good for him.
Yeah, it's interesting too, Tim, because we talk about the Big East, and I think Xavier is Warren Nolan and I think D1 Baseball RPI. I think the numbers are the same. 40 for Xavier, I think 43 for UConn, and the RPIs, and I think 56 for the Jays.
Yeah.
Interesting or ironic or whatever the adjective is that an year that's been so good for Creighton, kind of winning the Big East tournament, has been a little bit of a bugaboo for them, but would be the culmination, kind of the fitting one for a season like this is to get over that hump when you do have a couple of good teams that are highly thought of, and more than one that's not named St. John for once that is in the conference.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of the better years actually for the Big East. Ironically enough, they're pretty good this year. UConn's been good for several years, and that doesn't surprise me. They're the one public school in the bunch, and public schools, by and large, do better in this. You know, that they just do. And by that, I mean, big private is also public too. USC is a private institution, but it functions in many ways like it's a big university. It's like a public school. And so, you know, like it's impressive that the Big East has done this year. It would be fitting for Creighton to finally win it in his final year in the Big East, and so that would definitely be good. Well, again, the committee is going to have to make tough decisions, and I would not want to be in that spot. You know, there's some committees that I would love to be a part of. I think, you know, football would be great. There's really robust and interesting conversations to have there.
You glutton.
I think in basketball it would too. Here's why it's hard in baseball, and it's the same reason why it's hard in softball. You're getting into the way that metrics are developed in some of these other sports. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy once you get inside the SEC that like your RPI just shoots up. And so it's a hard situation to gauge because you've got teams that are right on the bubble that, you know, have good wins, because let's face it, if you're facing Tennessee and Texas and LSU and Vanderbilt 4 weekends in a row, the chances of you going 4-8 in those games is pretty good, actually. But that's also 4 wins that Creighton doesn't get to have because they don't play those teams all in a row. And so that's part of the challenge of the thing, is that, you know, some of these SEC teams can play some mediocre teams in non-conference play, beat them, then go to the SEC, finish, you know, whatever, 12-18 and make the NCAA tournament because the 12 wins they got were great. But anybody who knows anything about baseball knows that if you can win 33% of your games in a league without too much effort, like, that's the wrong word. You can do that because you've got a good pitcher or because it's a getaway day on Sunday and they're throwing 9 guys or whatever. That happens. It's much, much harder to win series after series after series, which is what Creighton has done. So hopefully the tournament selection committee understands. They do understand that, but it can get very pressurizing when you're looking at the 13th SEC team versus the 3rd Big East team, and, you know, people on Twitter are upset because, you know, this 13th SEC team didn't get in, and doesn't everybody understand how hard SEC baseball is, that kind of stuff. It'll be interesting to watch what happens to Creighton, because I think they belong in, but I think other people will say, well, they don't, because they didn't do this, and this in non-conference play.
Sam, some people call it a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'll call it a Ponzi scheme, is what props up the SEC. You can pick your sport, any sport, and I think it still applies. No, I do think it is kind of funny because we don't – I mean, your point's well taken. We don't really know how good these teams are outside of each other, right? Especially – like, I'm not saying the top of the SEC isn't good, but when you don't have opportunities and then the team goes – like, is it more – I would agree with you. I think it's harder if you're Creighton and you have to go, hey, I can't lose a series basically all year if I ever want a shot to have an at-large bid. Whereas if you're an SEC team, whether this is basketball or baseball.
Well, just take Oklahoma and Kentucky. I don't know how much baseball everybody watches, but, I mean, Kentucky swept that series. Oklahoma's top 20 in the country, and at no point did they look like the better team than Kentucky. Kentucky just got – I think that sweep got them to 13 wins in the conference, and now all of a sudden they're knocking on the door.
And nobody's asking, is either one of these teams good?
Yeah. You know what I mean? They just get these kind
of – get the benefit of the doubt, kind of no matter what. And so I do think it's –
I mean, Kentucky – and it's in Lexington. I get it, but they swept OU.
I just do think it's huge. Kind of funny, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, we sit here and we go, oh, well, obviously going 3 games under 500 in the SEC is harder than going 15-4 in a mid-major conference. I'm like, is it really? Are we sure?
Right. So in Major League Baseball, if you win 66% of your games, you're one of the best teams in regular season history. You win 107 or 108 games, whichever you want to pick. That means you're going to win the World Series almost always, not always if you're the Seattle Mariners, but almost always. And that's an incredible team that wins 106 games in Major League Baseball. Well, they only won 66% of their games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to do that, to win, say, 70% of your games is really, really impressive. And so, you know, like, my point being that on the flip side of the coin, to only, to win 1/3 of your games in a league is actually not that hard because, again, variance in baseball is such that that's just what happens.
Yeah, I mean,
And
West
so-
Virginia's top 15 in the country, and K-State just took 2 out of 3 from them.
Right. That happens. And there's just circumstances that Nebraska, in my opinion, should not be in at this stage of the game. I don't. Maybe if they'd swept Michigan and they sweep Purdue and then they win, all but one in the Big Ten tournament, maybe it would have been. But one of the things that's probably going to keep Nebraska out is they lost to UNO, and they, that's not, even though it was on the road, that's not a loss you want. Many people think it kept Rutgers out a couple of years ago when they lost that one game to Omaha. And so, I'm not trying to knock UNO in that process either. All I'm saying is that baseball is that way. Teams lose, and what you need to look at is overall performance. And I just feel like Creighton baseball's overall performance is worthy. They won a series from UConn. They swept St. John's. They won a series from Xavier. They're probably going to sweep Georgetown this weekend. To me, that's a team that belongs. But that's me. They took the season series from Nebraska. If there's a tiebreaker between Creighton and Nebraska, it's got to go to Creighton. So I think Creighton's in. I think I would put Creighton in. I don't know what they're going to do, though. Again, it'd just be a darn shame if this thing's 6-5 UConn on a Saturday afternoon in Cincinnati, and Nebraska and Creighton doesn't get in because they lost by 1 to a team that, again, can very easily win a regional. I think UConn could win a regional if they go to the right one.
Sam, let me ask you something, and we've gotten answers all over the place last week. It's a fascinating question because we all want Nebraska football to kind of make this jump, and we think we like the roster, and we kind of just been breaking it down. So I went back and I'm just kind of looking at teams in the conference, right? If Nebraska wants to make a move, and the way that I've kind of said it is the middle of this conference is very, very thick. It is just a lot of good interchangeable teams, and if Nebraska is going to make a move, it is going to be tough sledding. So let me ask you a couple of things about trajectory in terms of the conference. If Nebraska is going to have some success, so if you who are your top 4 teams? You don't have to put them in order, but if you concede Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State as the top 3 in the conference, who's 4 and 5 for you?
Illinois.
Okay.
And at this moment, USC.
Okay, so ahead of Michigan. Fine.
You're talking next year, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So that's 2 out of 3 that have said Illinois and USC, right? Because BC said the same thing.
Yep.
All right. So if Nebraska's gonna make a move, Sam, is their trajectory this year above or below UCLA?
Above.
Above or below Indiana?
Above.
Ooh. Above or below Rutgers?
Above.
Above or below Minnesota?
Above.
Above or below Washington?
Above.
Above or below Iowa?
Above.
Wow. That is Brian Christopherson-esque from 2 weeks ago. So if that's the case, that would put Nebraska in kind of that 6-7-ish category. So you would you
if you're talking about making a move.
Okay, so okay, I like the context, and you can clarify along the way just so we're not misrepresenting you.
I'm not saying they're going to finish 6 or 7. I'm saying that you asked me if their trajectory is on the upward swing, where would they finish? They would finish in the top 6.
Okay, so in your opinion, to get into that top 5, would Nebraska be considered a dark horse?
For what?
To get into the top 5 of the Big Ten.
Like a dark horse pick to get into the top 5?
Yeah, of the Big Ten Conference.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think they can do that. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that something? So the sentiment is, and you're so far you've been very. There's no him hawing around, right? Like there's no hand wringing, no consternation, no.
I think Matt Rule feels the same way.
Interesting.
Doesn't he?
I would agree.
Don't you think? Matt Rule feels he can do that?
I think he really likes this football team. I do. I agree with. I think he really likes this football team. I'm trying to establish where, as a fan base, we think this football team is heading into this season. Because
I get it.
Yeah, because you're very, very, like you easily said, yes to Minnesota and yes to Iowa. And we haven't had very good success against those teams. And I caught myself last week, Sam, saying, I'm like, I used to say, can they beat Wisconsin and Iowa in the same year? Now I'm like, if Nebraska wants to make a move, they got to beat Minnesota and Iowa in the same year, right? So it's just a very difficult conference in the middle.
Yes, it is. So, I'm not saying they're going to beat Minnesota. I'm saying that if they're the team that they want to be, then they will have done that.
Mm.
Yep. So, I'm not saying that Nebraska's going to beat them because, quite honestly, they haven't beaten Minnesota in Minneapolis in 10 years.
Yeah.
So, just to be clear, to
That's
be who
crazy.
they want to be, they have to do certain things. If you told me that Nebraska beat Minnesota at Minnesota, first of all, that'd be a really good win. Then they beat Iowa, and they don't play Indiana. But if you told me they beat Minnesota and they beat Iowa, I'm telling you that they beat Maryland. I don't know if they're going to beat Michigan, although I think it'll be a close game. Michigan State is a tough one. We'll see. I think I'd say that they're not favored to beat Penn State, and I think right now, we'll see with USC. I think USC could be quite good. We'll just have to see, and that'll be a fun game at Memorial Stadium. So but to go where they want to go, they'll finish 9-3 or 10-2 this year. If they're on the trajectory that Matt Rule wants them on, they could go 7-5, which means they lose to Minnesota and they lose to Michigan and they lose to USC and they lose to Penn State and then they lose some other game to someone else. But that's kind of where they could very easily finish 7-5. That would not stun me. I think it would disappoint them because I think they feel like they got to get on their horse a little bit, and I think they're right. I think where the sport is going, winning in the next 2 or 3 years is pretty important, and I could probably see my way to saying they'll have a better overall team next year than they do this year. But they got a good enough team this year to win 9 or 10 games, and now it's up to them to do it.
Mm. So, Sam, here's the $1 million question: is you laid out the case for if they do make kind of that jump next year, how that has to look. What is your, I don't know if confidence is the right word, maybe probability in your mind on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 10? What do you think the chances of that actually happening are?
I need to talk more, I think, to the coordinators, and I need to have a sense of. I feel like I need more data, and that may mean that I need a non-conference season. I don't know.
Fair.
I got to see what that defense is. I got to see what John Butler's able to cook up with Phil Snow in the offseason here, and what they're able to create. Look, at this point in time, the defensive line should not be better than last year's. It shouldn't. I mean, and that's not a knock on anybody. That's give me a year, give me 2 years with Riley Van Poppel and Cam Ledhart, Williams Ranieri, and it could be better. But you can't guarantee that right now, given the fact they lost Ty and Nash and Jamari Butler. That's hard to prove.
And MJ Sherman.
And MJ Sherman, right. So, what you'd have to have be true is McCullough would have to be as good as Sherman. Elijah Judy would have to be as good as Hutmacher. Cam Lenhart would have to be as good as Butler, and somehow Van Poppel would have to be as good as Robinson right now, and that's just not fair to Riley, even though I think he's going to be quite a good player, very good. So that's hard to say. So there's your defensive line. They seem to think their linebackers are great. We'll see. I do think they're going to have a special secondary if everybody stays healthy, and then I do think their offense is going to get better. Now does it get how much better does it get? Because the offenses in this league are going to get better too. Michigan State's going to play some football. I've told people that many times now. Their coach can coach. Now, he is not the flashiest guy in the world, and he's not necessarily the greatest recruiter. But they will score 28 points on you in a blink next year if you're not careful. That guy knows how to call plays. He comes from a really good offensive family tree. And they will come in here and score 28 points on Nebraska if Nebraska is not careful. So, that team's going to be good. Minnesota's not going to be a joke. All these things. The Big Ten is really, really good. I keep trying to tell people that. And I think people sometimes think it's still 2011 and 2012 when Urban Meyer hadn't really taken over yet. But the league at this point is way, way better than it was when Bo got into it. And so people should take note. Nebraska is actually a pretty darn good football program. You put Nebraska in the Big 12, and I might take Nebraska to win it. And I'm not exaggerating. But they're not in the Big 12. They're in the Big 10. And that's a whole different kind of league, and it's going to be a heck of a challenge.
Sam, at the risk of opening a can of worms here, when you talk about the defensive line, because I've been very passionate about this, when you say
he's been on the warpath all morning, Sam.
When you say better, what do you mean? Because I look at there's some stats and there's some tape that I look at and I go, there's some areas I don't love, not just last year, but over the course of several years in terms of disruptive and explosive plays. And I go, okay, I get Ty Robinson's really, really good. And I'm not taking anything away from Ty Robinson, but I go down the line. I go, okay, can any of the guys you name get 5 sacks? Cause that's what we're talking about for the next best pass rusher on the team last year outside of Ty Robinson. And can anybody on those team or anybody out there get 5 tackles for loss? Cause that's what we're talking about for the second or third best tackles for loss on the team last year. So I sit here and I go, okay, I know that we love Ty Robinson and for good reason, but as a disruptive unit, I sit here and I go, I think this team coming into 2025 can be more disruptive than the team that left 2024. And so when you say better, like, what does that mean to you? What does that look like?
And Damon can elaborate on this too. There's a combination of quality of player and also scheme. And so, sometimes you can scheme your way into TFLs. It's not perfect, but you can scheme your way into that stuff. And so those are numbers on a page. What I would say is that Nebraska's, however you want to call it, Bo used to call it like sort of like an interlocking wall. You build a run wall, is the way Pelini used to talk about it. Carl used to talk about it this way too. And Nebraska's run wall in the last couple of years, in my opinion, has been pretty good. Not perfect. Certainly USC did some things that were nice, and there were some other teams that did too. But they built, in my opinion, pretty good run walls. And I think that Nash Hepmucker is a hard guy to move. And I think Ty Robinson is actually pretty explosive for his size. And Jamari Butler had some incredible games. Not every game, but he had some incredible ones. And so, when you watch what Ohio State did in the playoff and then you watch what Nebraska did to Ohio State, Nebraska had good defensive linemen. Now, they weren't always consistent, but they had good ones. And so I think that's some of it, is the ability to withstand the constant beating that teams put on you. And I thought Nebraska's defensive line last year had depth. So not only did you have the frontline guys, but then Elijah Judy could trot onto the field and he could be the second string guy. Well, who's the guy behind Elijah Judy this year? Stu Lefatu, Dylan Parrott, these are good players, but I don't know that they're as good as Elijah Judy was last year's backup. And so some of it's depth, some of it is, quality of play. So that's asking a lot of Van Poppel to be as good as Robinson. I do think Cam Lenhart can be as good as Butler, but Butler had his moments, really special moments over the last 2 seasons. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting to watch. Certainly, again, Damon can unpack this over the many months ahead, but what John Butler has planned, what Phil Snow is going to help with, what that defense is going to try to do, is they're going to try to create more pressure on the quarterback.
I think that's the part that he likes with this D-line. In listening to Ravi the last handful of weeks, I think he's thinking scheme plus ability for havoc. Because they keep talking about affecting the quarterback, right? And some of it is with pre-snap looks, some of it is,
and that's not something Nebraska's been very good at for a while.
I think so it's interesting, Sam. If I give you year 2 McGahee, year 2 Shavers, hyphenated Trent,
Lenhart, year 3 Van Poppel, year 4,
you get
5,
Javen, you get Bowers, like those guys playing behind and fitting and schematically can dramatically affect what your D-line is able to do, because I do think they may be twitchier up front than a year ago.
Yeah, that's possible. I think the flip side of the coin for me is if a team decides, okay, we're just going to go ahead.
We're going to tank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the other option is that teams are like, okay, so we can't. And I'm not saying Cincinnati can do this because Cincinnati probably can't. But there are teams like Michigan that can just say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put 2 tight ends on the field. We'll have one of them offset. And, but we can bring him in as an inline blocker, and we're just going to run at you. And we're not going to run for 300 yards. We're going to run for 189, but we're going to control 38 minutes of the clock, and we're going to win the game 17-10. Now, the numbers don't look weird in a game like that, but you lost the game because you couldn't get them off the field because they controlled the line of scrimmage. That's the thing that I feel like, and Sharon Moore is a good coach. He is, whether he coaches that game or not. He understands that, and Jim Harbaugh understood it. And consistently, Michigan understood that, okay, we're going to take your twitchiness away by just rolling out a 283-pound tight end and just hammering at you for 4 quarters, and that's how they've beaten Ohio State many years in a row. Not because they have better athletes in Ohio State, but because they have a smarter strategy and they understand the line of scrimmage. And so Nebraska, that's what I mean, is that Nebraska's got to be able to figure those moments out too. And if you're talking pass rushing skill sets, the most talented pass rusher they had left. And that wasn't James Williams. It was Prince William Yellow. Now he's going to end up being a 1st or 2nd round pick at Mississippi. Now it was I don't think it was Nebraska's fault that he didn't completely contribute at Nebraska.
And I'm not going to bash anybody, but I think with Princewell, I think rigor and the ability to do something day to day. Listen, right. I'm not going to tell you he's not a top 3 round talent. I'm just saying like the rigor has to match.
Yes, agree. So you put it perfectly. I'm just saying that he had the ability.
Yeah.
So when we talk about twitchiness, it's not just that.
Are you sure it's not Shavers?
That he might not be the most talented.
The most natural pass rusher.
Right, but he's doing that from 6 yards away. Unless, and again, you know more than I do. It's possible they'll bring him down to the line of scrimmage, and
certainly McGahee will be.
He's pass rushing from depth.
Yeah. So
he's pass rushing from 6 yards away. I think in 2011, and somebody can go look this up, Levante had like 5 or 6 sacks doing that, pass rushing from depth. They used him that way. He was great. Eckler would know how they used him because he was there and he recruited Levante. So, yeah, can Vincent Shavers do what Levante did? Well, ideally, sure. Yeah, that would be great if he was able to do that. So it's possible that he's the best one. But what you want is you want it to be Deshaun McCullough. You want it to be Willis McGahee the 4th. You want it to be Cam Lenhart. You want it to be somebody on the line of scrimmage so that, because, as people know, if you're pass rushing from 6 yards away, then people can see you more easily. So, I don't know. And again, John Butler, I think, is regarded as something of a genius. He's been given the chance to run the defense. I have little doubt that he will come up with creative things. It's a matter of if it works. And, again, that guy knows everything there is to know about that stuff. And they're going to give him a shot. I think he's going to be fun to watch because I know he's intense. He's intense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to have to, I remember after the Pinstripe Bowl celebration and everybody's kind of celebrating and then there's Butler in the back and he's still, you can tell he hasn't really left the game yet. He's back there just kind of intense, and so it'll be fun to watch him. I think people maybe don't appreciate what's coming with him. He's going to be dynamic and he will be fiery. And not that Tony White wasn't fiery. He was. But Butler's got a lot. He's an intense guy. Fun to watch.
That's Sam McKewon, Omaha World Herald. Sam, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Sam.
That's Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald.
You avoided the dreaded my article thought process or question on this rewind.
I did. I was triggered by something else.
D-line?
Yeah, because I'm just, okay.
We'll get it on the other side.
Princewell had half a sack last year. Half.
context. He's just natural pass rush.
I understand that, but what good did that do us? If he goes in the first 2 rounds, it's going to be a Shamar
It
Stewart
was
deal.
just kind of in context to what he was saying, though, about the talent.
That's
level.
fine. I'll take Williams in Winery's half a sack. I'll take my chances that he has more than half a sack.
Do you know how you can get past having this conversation? Like when Mac asks a really the most talented player in the class to leave and nobody cares?
Yeah.
You win.
That's or you get anybody
nobody brings the fact up that he showed a guy at the door whose highlight film was the best that maybe had ever been on Creighton's campus.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Because they won.
So if you get guys that can rush the passer and have more than 4 or 5 sacks as the second
or half a sack
as the sack guy, nobody will talk about, especially if Prince Will gets drafted. Now, he's got a long way to go to get drafted.
Yeah.
But I think Sam was just simply saying
from a talent standpoint,
he's a very draftable talent.
But you know what I don't care about?
Talent
that doesn't get me anywhere.
Yeah. No.
You know what I mean?
I get it.
Like,
I just think you guys were kind of saying two different things.
I had only half a sack less than Prince Will did last year. He's got more talent than I do. Did it matter? That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back more Hurrdat Sports Live.
Well, the first thought is it was nice. I thought we were in, so you didn't have that anxiety of, being a bubble team. So that was nice. And I feel like our body of work has been strong. I feel like we've been playing well lately. I gave you a high five a few weeks ago because we had an air-free weekend on defense. I just feel like our pitching's been really consistent. Our hitting's been pretty consistent throughout, and defense too. So I feel like we're in a good place, and we're healthy. And so I just feel like we'll be primed and ready to. I told the team after the UCLA game, I thought we really needed not a loss, but we needed a game with that kind of competition. And I felt like it was, it was a primer to what we're going to face in postseason. So, I feel like we're ready to go, and we'll be ready to go. Can't wait to get to scouting.
We couldn't be more confident. We've worked ever since we got here last summer and literally last June, almost a whole year ago, and we've just been working on kind of our camaraderie together since then. So I think just going into this regional knowing that we are like 25 strong and that having that kind of on our backs is really going to help us out.
For this program to be back in the NCAA tournament?
A lot. I mean, that's always a goal every year when we step into the season. That's one of the goals, is to make postseason and put Nebraska on the map. And I know we have a lot of Nebraska natives on our team this year, so it'll be special for a lot of those girls to be able to represent our state in the tournament for the first time. So it was extra special this time.
This is the third regional you go to, twice to Stillwater. What'd you learn from that regional experience that you can carry down to Baton Rouge?
Yeah, Stillwater, we've gone there twice. It's a fun atmosphere to play in. I've heard that Baton Rouge is the same way. So I think that was a good experience, and some of our girls have experienced that at least once. So yeah, I think we've played in those big games, even just in the Big Ten tournament. We've played in some big games, so I know we're going to be prepared and ready to go down there and compete.
At Centris Federal Credit Union, we understand that the journey of building your own business typically starts with modest beginnings. With a little help from our team of experts and small business loan offerings, you can take your vision and transform it into a more concrete reality. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where one of the specials for this month is the beef tachos. I'm a big tachos guy. I know you love the tater tots here, and I know you love some beef as well.
What's for dinner? Man,
get out here, get some of those beef tachos. I love a good beef tacho here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. So Sam said something interesting, and I'm not going to harp on the D-line part. I'm not going to. But there was – see, that was Sam. That wasn't me. That was his
Frozen,
noise.
Man.
So
let it go.
There was something that he brought up if – let's say I'm right, and because he sort of entertained that, hey, maybe they're more twitchy, maybe they're more better at impacting the quarterback. But – on the other side of things, our team's going to line up and just try and punch them in the face, if that's the case. So I'm looking at their schedule, and I'm trying to figure out.
There's only 3.
Where that would happen. Michigan,
mm-hmm.
Iowa,
mm-hmm.
Minnesota.
Correct.
That's it. Right?
Where I think it would be intentional to line it up.
Where they just say, hey, if you're going to try and play us like this, we're going to just punch you in the face.
I thought about that.
And see what happens.
Probably about 4 months ago when I saw the schedule.
Is it a given that they would lose those 3 games if those teams play that way?
No.
Right. So that kind of goes to my point that when we say better on defensive line, I don't really know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I do think they have the potential to be more disruptive. I was being, tongue in cheek with Prince Will, but that is a guy that we talk about a lot for a guy that didn't play or produce a lot, as a big loss. Like MJ Sherman's a bigger loss than Prince Will. Jamari Butler.
From a production standpoint, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're just talking production.
Yeah, because I get that Prince Will's talented, but if that talent doesn't turn into anything, then I've got Shamar Stewart, and I'm mad that he gets drafted in the first round, right? Like, if I'm a Texas A&M fan, you think I love the Shamar Stewart experience?
If you're Cleveland, are you loving the Shamar Stewart
experience?
No,
I don't.
Hey, do you think you're going to get that contract signed?
You know what I mean?
I hope so. I would like to. Wow, this what we're on, Shamar?
So, yes, I'm talking about
production. A little early for that.
And, yes, there is a difference between talent and production. I can recognize that, and we can have that conversation another day, or later today if we have time. But I look at it, I go, okay, and even Jamari. You bring this up with Jamari a lot. We didn't get Ohio State Jamari for the whole year, whether that's injury, whatever that was, right? I know that was a guy that wasn't playing healthy a lot of the time. But
did I say Cleveland?
Shamar? Yeah, I think so.
It's the other B team.
That's fine.
Bungles.
They kind of bungled some things. Like, Jamari Butler had 2 sacks last year. He only had 5 QB pressures the whole year. Like, I'm not sitting here and saying there's a ton of production to be replaced with a lot of these guys. Yes, Ty Robinson is a big ask. But that's about the only guy we're really talking about when we say this. Nash, for as much as we love him and for as good as he was playing banged up, his production wasn't what we thought it could be last year.
And I'm the one that had to tell you when people were being hard on him that
there was
he's hurt.
He's banged up, which is totally fair. But I'm looking at Jamari, I'm looking at Prince Will, I'm looking at all these guys, and I go, this isn't really what we thought it was. We liked a lot of these guys, and some of them were productive at various points, But we think of Jamari, we think of Ohio State. We don't think of the other 11 games.
Yeah, and that's probably, if I was going to pick at that segment, that's probably not where I would start. Because
which part then? Where would you pick?
With what they're having to replace who's no longer on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have two guys.
John Bullock?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So you have two guys coming in that will play more that are really gifted pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Shavers and McGahee.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that's part of the reason I'm so high on this group. I love those guys.
Like, and Shavers will play inside.
Yeah.
But
he's going to get his opportunities to.
And I'm going to take Coach Butler at his word. During the coaching clinic, he says, hey, one of the keys to being a good defensive coordinator, guys, is let your guys do what they're good at.
Mm-hmm.
I should probably let Shavers get after the passer.
Yeah, probably.
So if you use him as an example,
he is disruptive.
I'm probably thinking you're going to do what you say you're going to do and use him to get after the passer.
Absolutely.
I also know McGahee was
a monster,
potentially really good situationally.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, with Coach Simpson, and Coach TB Terry, you got to stop the run.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's a reason that they say you have to earn the right to get after the passer.
Yep, because you got to do the other stuff first.
And it's not, and I want people to hear what they're saying. It's not, we're not going to let you rush the passer because you're not good at the quarterback or stopping the run. It's in order to dial up pressure, you have to be in advantageous situations sometimes, which typically starts with people being behind the sticks.
Yeah, you got to get him into second and third and long.
That happens
by stopping the run. More often
So
than
he's not just saying.
Yeah, he's not being some weird authoritarian, whatever, like, hey, if you don't do this thing that I care about, you don't get to do the thing you want to do. It's from a practical standpoint.
See, Josh, I think Sam made just the opposite point. He said he made a good point with the depth. Not really. They're deeper this year. They didn't play a ton of guys last year.
Yeah,
what are we talking about in the interior?
Tony's brought that up that they didn't rotate a ton last year.
No, I don't.
They really didn't play anybody. They didn't play a ton of guys last year.
Cam kind of disappeared.
Yep. Princewell disappeared.
Princewell didn't play.
Yeah. Jamari was banged up.
Situationally, like, how did we find Parrott? We found him last year because of that.
Yeah.
We had to play Ochoa last year because of that.
And we kind of like Ochoa. And you know,
and we weren't really
sure
sure what we were getting with Judy. And we certainly didn't play Keona.
I was saying, that's the guy we didn't even bring up yet. My favorite guy on the line.
Yeah, I actually think it's just the opposite.
I think there's way more depth this year.
I think they have significantly more depth.
Yeah. Now they had some of the.
I'm not even sure it's close.
They had some of the same bodies last year, but they didn't use them.
So I think from the edge guys, sure, because you could play Jamari.
You threw James Williams in there.
James,
very situationally.
Yeah, and James would tell you he ain't playing enough. And
maybe it's working somewhere else now.
And MJ, but interior, like from a 5 to a 5 tech, yeah, it ain't deeper. I know. I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of depth on the D line this year. I think there's a lot of explosiveness and twitchiness on the defensive line this year.
I think it's important. I'm going to say this.
You're replacing a monster.
I'm saying this like I said it a month ago. You have to replace production, not the bodies.
Yes. Yes.
So the bodies they have, you have to be as productive. But I do agree with Sam that you can't just naturally say they're going to have a better D-line.
Sure.
But I've said that too.
Yeah.
That's where you and I will go back and forth over that. But again, I've said this before, more capable bodies, sure. Because I mean, with Cincinnati, if you're just talking about the opener, you've got a good returning experienced quarterback. You've got a couple of draft picks that you're going to have to face on the D-line, their D-line. And you got to be able to get after them having to replace 4 starters along the offensive line. Veteran wide receiving core. So if you're just talking about, and we got a long time to get into that matchup.
Yeah.
But that one's not going to be predicated so much on stopping the run.
No.
But you're going to have time to get into it. But
like Cincinnati's probably not going to try and pound it down your throat.
But I do agree. And there's a couple teams we're leaving out too with what I think have crafty run games, like Michigan State, UCLA. because you just don't know what you're going to get with them, because UCLA, I know, wants to run the ball, and now that they have a quarterback that can run the ball, that changes their run game tremendously. But you don't get them until game 8 or whenever that is in Pasadena.
Game like 10 or so. It's like it's in the last third of the season.
You're okay there.
Well, and you also don't know. Okay, you got a new OC, so you don't know what you're getting out of UCLA necessarily. There, a guy that has not been a full-time play caller before, so you go in Cincinnati, right? Like, so you don't have. Like, you don't really know what you're getting out of UCLA. You don't really know what you're getting because of Nico and whatever that situation is and what they want their offense to be. Like, there's a lot of variables with some teams that potentially could try and maybe run it at you a little bit and get creative, that I really don't know if that's how they're going to end up playing it. But, I mean, there's a lot of guys we haven't even talked about. Like, we brought up Mason Goldman once or twice over the last couple of weeks. That's a guy that had more production than Princewell did.
No, I understand.
You know, like, there's a lot of guys that we focus on, a lot of the guys that didn't produce that much. That's kind of my point. And there's a lot of guys left that I think are equally as talented that already have produced more than some of the guys that were upset about leaving. It really just comes down to, can you replace Ty Robinson in the aggregate? And I don't know if they can or not. I think they can. We're going to talk to Bill Bender from the Sporting News. A little more college football coming up next.
Well, the first thought is it was nice. I thought we were in, so you didn't have that anxiety of, being a bubble team. So that was nice. And I feel like our body of work has been strong. I feel like we've been playing well lately. I gave you a high five a few weeks ago because we had an air-free weekend on defense. I just feel like our pitching's been really consistent. Our hitting's been pretty consistent throughout, and defense too. So I feel like we're in a good place, and we're healthy. And so I just feel like we'll be primed and ready to. I told the team after the UCLA game, I thought we really needed, not a loss, but we needed a game with that kind of competition. And I felt like it was, it was a primer to what we're going to face in postseason. So, I feel like we're ready to go, and we'll be ready to go. Can't wait to get to scouting.
We couldn't be more confident. We've worked ever since we got here last summer and literally last June, almost a whole year ago, and we've just been working on kind of our camaraderie together since then. So I think just going into this regional knowing that we are like 25 strong and that having that kind of on our backs is really going to help us out.
For this program to be back in the NCAA tournament?
A lot. I mean, that's always a goal every year when we step into the season. That's one of the goals, is to make postseason and put Nebraska on the map. And I know we have a lot of Nebraska natives on our team this year, so it'll be special for a lot of those girls to be able to represent our state in the tournament for the first time. So it was extra special this time.
This is the third regional you go to, twice to Stillwater. What'd you learn from that regional experience that you can carry down to Baton Rouge?
Yeah, Stillwater, we've gone there twice. It's a fun atmosphere to play in. I've heard that Baton Rouge is the same way. So I think that was a good experience. And some of our girls have experienced that at least once. So, yeah, I think we've played in those big games. Even just in the Big Ten tournament, we've played in some big games. So I know we're going to be prepared and ready to go down there and compete.
At Centris Federal Credit Union, we understand that the journey of building your own business typically starts with modest beginnings. With a little help from our team of experts and small business loan offerings, you can take your vision and transform it into a more concrete reality. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DBM Ravi, Lulla. We are joined now by Bill Bender. He covers college football for the Sporting News. Bill, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on. I hope you guys are doing great.
We are. And I promise this isn't like have anything to do with kind of the region that you're in or teams that you have a particular affinity for. But Bill, you're going to laugh at me. We've been talking for years, and I'm probably the only person that would remotely intimate that Jeremiah Smith seems to be overrated. I don't listen. Oh, I know. You're like, oh, God, I can't believe we're having this. You're somebody that I even think is remotely smart. And it just needs context, right? I see it. I watch him play. I watch the routes ran, a lot of over routes, a lot of, hey, go get it. I get it. He's a phenomenal player. And I told Ravi this last week. I said, all these clips, I'm like, I'm going to grow to dislike this guy. And it's not even his fault. But the talk of being a Sunday guy last year already, top 5 in the league in the NFL, I'm like, no, he's not, guys. Not yet. There's a lot of things you have to do. How good, in your opinion, is Jeremiah Smith relative to the best player in the country talk that we keep talking about?
Well, that's going to be – so to your point, right, I think he has the potential to be a Terrell Owens type at the next level. But if you threw him out there now, he's not going to be Terrell Owens, Dallas Cowboys take over the game guy in the NFL. Not yet. And so I think I hear you from that standpoint. The Julio Jones comparison is a pretty good one to me. And we saw Julio do that as a freshman. And we all said, oh, this is the greatest receiver we've ever seen. So there's something to what you're saying. I do think his ability to when you have a guy that has to be accounted for every play when he's on the field or he can score, that's what he brings, in my opinion. And there's not too many like him at the college level right now. I could make the case that the best player on that roster this year is Caleb Downs.
Yeah.
Because of how he just impacts the entire side of that side of the ball with his range at safety. So when you have arguably the best offensive player and best defensive player in the game coming into the year, yeah. But you know what? Jeremiah is also really good interview, nice kid, humble. So he's confident but humble. He will tell you, I'm best receiver, but isn't that a position where you have to be like that?
100%.
So, Bill, let me ask you this. I know physically they're very different guys, but for all of the love that Jeremiah Smith got last year, and I'm not saying this guy didn't, but what is the gap between a Jeremiah Smith and a Ryan Williams in your mind?
Size.
Because when I look at those two guys,
yeah.
I kind of lean Ryan Williams personally, but I know they play very different games, so it can be kind of apples and oranges to compare.
Well, it is, because I look at receivers and I was talking to my son. I was literally talking to my son about this the other day. It's like there's 3 different types of receivers. Ryan Williams would be the guy that, game breaker, completely different skill set, dimensions, speed than Jeremiah Smith, but can also take over a game. He did take over the Georgia game. I mean, that probably, if I was pulling up one play in my memory from last year, you say, what was the best play last year? It was probably that touchdown.
Along the sidelines,
right?
versus Georgia?
Yeah, wasn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, it was silly.
So, and then you need like a route runner, a slot receiver type. And they come in all sizes. You can have a 6'4" guy. You can have the prototype. I always think of prototype receivers, 6 foot, 190, 200 pounds. And then your slot receiver that's just an automatic 3rd and 5 guy. So Ryan Williams will be very good at the next level. But to answer your question, and maybe this kind of gets into what we're getting at, taking both of those receivers, first-round pick, over Tetsuo McMillan in the draft.
Yeah.
I would have. Maybe they're not better guys at rookies, but I'm getting it eventually.
So the skill position out of this previous draft, how much do you think was impacted by what we saw with how the quarterbacks were thought of during this draft?
I overvalued the quarterbacks in the draft, but I'm not the only one. It's like I'm blaming everybody else. But no, I will say this. I thought, for example, I'm not just talking Shedeur. I would say I had like Kyle McCord and Will Howard like 4th-round guys, and they went in the 6th. I didn't think Quinn Ewers would go in the 7th round. So I didn't think teams would just wait until the very end to go on what that quarterback run was. And I will say this. I was at Brown's rookie mini camp Friday. Maybe it's confirmation bias, but I thought Shedeur Sanders looked good. Okay?
Well, the reports and the clips and the highlights say he was pretty good.
So maybe, again, it's not just me. I think he will be okay. I think the Cleveland circus will begin if he overtakes Dylan Gabriel, which I think he will, and Joe Flacco struggles, which at 40 he might, and they get in a position where they may actually have to start Shedeur Sanders. That's when this will go to plaid.
So,
that's a Spaceballs reference.
I like it. Hey, listen, it got a chuckle out of me. I like it, especially because it was a John Candy Marathon this weekend.
Gave me pause for a second there, Bill. So to your point, though, does anybody believe that Shedeur won't overtake Dylan Gabriel? All last year and the year before even, all I heard about Dylan Gabriel is great college player, not really an NFL prospect. And then all of a sudden we get to the draft and we go, oh, he's a 3rd rounder. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's confirmation bias. I'm kind of with you that I thought it was kind of wild that Shedeur, and I don't even love Shedeur, that he fell the way he did. I just assume he's going to overtake Dylan Gabriel. Like I didn't even give that a second thought.
Yeah. And the Browns, it's always an adventure. I've been to Browns rookie mini camp with Johnny, and then I was there when they had Baker, and I even before Baker, you tried to talk yourself into a Deshaun Kaiser or a Cody Kessler. So we've done it all up there. But to your point, yeah, like I don't think the Browns thought that Shedeur would be there, so he becomes a little bit of a steal as a 5th-round pick, in my opinion. Because if you're getting a 5th-round pick who was projected by me and others, several others. We can't act like we all didn't think Shedeur was going to go in the 1st or 2nd round. He was the talk of the first 3 days of the draft. But, yeah, like to your point, I think he will. The Saints situation with Derek Carr is interesting to me because, okay, now do you maybe trade one of those guys or can he pick it to the Saints? Because that was another surprise to me that Tyler Shuck went as high as he did. I like Tyler. He's played a lot of football. He's got the NFL size. I wouldn't have taken him over Shedeur Sanders. That's just me.
He's old, but he really hasn't played that much football, right?
Correct. And that's the other part of it. Like, he had injuries. Now, the 1 year with Louisville, with Jeff Brom, there was some good things. But what are you getting with Tyler Shuck? I think best case you're getting something close to Aiden O'Connell Whereas with Shedeur Sanders' best case, you're getting a guy that I tell people this all the time. He took Colorado from 1 win to 9 wins in 2 years. He doesn't turn the ball over. He can take sacks, which tells you if he's playing for a bad team, he's going to hang in the pocket. I know everybody's talked about this since the draft, but I'm going to be the one that says I didn't get it. I don't get why he fell as far as he did.
Bill, let me ask you something. I want to go back to this was Georgia first started their spring practice, and Kirby Smart was doing his his second or third practice, and he's doing this interview with the media, and he's talking about how he's looking around at the new faces, and he asked these guys to kind of raise their hand. How many of them had been through, 3 practices at 3 springs at Georgia, and then 2 spring practices at Georgia? And he said, he started thinking with so few hands that had gone up, like how did they kind of get in this spot? Like, no wonder I'm not happy with the standard and we're not able to practice, kind of the Bulldog way. And this is coming from a guy that he mastered the system, the previous system. He had totally gamed the system, yet he's having this aha moment real time in this very fluid, transactional age of college football, where he acted as though it kind of almost snuck up on him. And I'm not feeling sorry for Kirby Smart, but what I am saying is, how many coaches do you think are realizing just kind of what kind of bed they're sleeping in and how apt they are to want to maybe get out and change the sheets when you look at the landscape of college football?
Part of it is Georgia did have a ton of guys go to the NFL from 2 national championship teams. And the more you can do it, some programs do that better than others. Alabama was able to do that. That was what Nick Saban mastered, sending 10 guys to the NFL, having 10 guys in their place that would be breakout players. I always point to Quinnen Williams, nobody heard about until he had that 1 year at Alabama where he had worked to that point. And I think that's maybe something that Kirby's dealing with. The player arrests are definitely a factor. I said not one individual, but that starts to tear at your program a little bit. When you have arrest after arrest and suspension after suspension over a bizarre series of things with the driving incidents, quite frankly. So I think for him, there is that opportunity to kind of strike back at college football. They had a ridiculous schedule last year, and the talent, I mean, they have enough 4- and 5-star talent. They did win it's weird to think about Georgia winning the SEC and consider last season being a little bit of a disappointment. That's a strange standard that they have there, right?
Yeah, I would say so. But it does kind of bring up an interesting point. Like, if it can happen to Georgia, like, it can happen to anybody, obviously, but then can it happen in sort of the reverse as well, where I guess we would call this the Indiana model, where all of a sudden you can go from, or maybe even the Colorado model, where you go from not really having a standard to being able to establish that standard in a hurry. I guess, are either of those sustainable, or are we just going to be in a place where it's always in flux for everyone?
Well, I think so, because, if you rely on the portal, Louisville's a great example. I think Jeff Brom's done a nice job with the portal. They have a lot of guys come in and out, and he just, between Purdue and Louisville, he's crushed it. But you also have cases where Mel Tucker at Michigan State had a great year with Kenneth Walker and several portal guys, and they've struggled since. Mel doesn't coach there anymore, and it goes south from there. So that is dangerous. I do think when you're not one of like the blue blood programs in the portal, you're going to have to do things a little bit differently. Ole Miss and LSU are schools to watch this year. They went heavy portal. A lot of pressure on Brian Kelly at LSU this year, coming off a 4-loss season. Does all that coming in, coming out work for the Tigers? That's going to be a big question. By the way, they open at Clemson. He needs to learn how to schedule an opener.
And then not complain about it after he knows that it's a brutal one. So, like, let I think the self-awareness to know, hey, listen, we know who we're playing. Just don't go back and complain about it later on if it doesn't go the way you wanted to. But their opponent, let me ask you something. And maybe it's a Klubnik deal. Maybe it's a, hey, we're cheering for the all shucksy we're not going to do it this way, Dabo Sweeney guy. But how did Clemson stave off the – I mean, the buzzards were circling, and here they are right back in a preseason spot that we're accustomed to Clemson being after all the hand-wringing about would Sweeney actually get with the times?
Well, if you can love him, hate him, have whatever opinion you want on Dabo, he's an awesome football coach. And the thing that you can't say about him that is he doesn't believe in what he says. He stands by his convictions. He doesn't really care if you disagree. Now, they are using the portal a little more. But at the end of the day, coming into this season, they have 5 guys on our top 50 big board.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
You know, Klubnik, they got edge rushers. They've got the pieces that they have when they're really good. You know, they've got Antonio Williams at receiver. Now, that was always my thing over these last few years when they took that little dip. I was like, where's T. Higgins? Where's Justin Ross? Where's that receiver?
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. Sammy Watkins. They haven't had that. So, win the ACC again. And I think they're going to have a chance to build on last year. And, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, Dabo, look at his winning percentage. I mean, how are we doubting this guy?
Yeah, we're talking with Bill Bender from the Sporting News. Bill, so as we kind of switch gears here, obviously one of the major stories that has come down in the offseason is Sharon Moore being self-imposed, suspended by Michigan for a couple games this year. I guess, did you see that part of it coming, that they would self-impose before the NCAA or the Big Ten came and did anything? And how did you process the games they apparently chose for him to be missing?
Yeah, that was weird. That they get. That's like me getting to choose what I have to do around the house.
What chores do you want to do, Bill?
It doesn't work that way with my kids. My kids certainly would not come up to me and say that. Like, no, you're doing that. So I think that's a little bit because, first of all, if I'm Matt Rule, I'm putting that on my bulletin board that Michigan chose, you know, Sharon chose to sit out Oklahoma instead of you, or sit out Oklahoma, or he wanted to coach Oklahoma. He didn't want to coach against you guys. That's easy bulletin board material, by the way. And Rory is on year 3. So that's what I'm concerned about, is that they haven't got through a resolution. So they may get punished some more. I lost count, honestly. I had to go back and calculate, okay, how many games did Jim Harbaugh miss? And how many did Sharon miss? And how many did former coordinator Jesse Minter miss? So when you've got a story that's reached year 3, I think you need some resolution to it. I've been a kind of the opinion that, I mean, what else can you do? If you're going to hit a program, I would hit them in the wallet, and I would hit them with scholarships or portal, something like that. Because, I mean, we can sit here and say they want to vacate that national title. I don't think that's going to happen. But, I mean, if you truly want to punish a program, you hit them where it hurts, and that's the wallet in an age where NIL money matters.
Bill, I almost hate to ask this question. This lets you know how I prefer being a professional and objective more than my own personal feelings. But how soon before you think we're going to owe Sark an apology over the job that he's continually been able to do at Texas, given kind of what the criticisms were up until the last year and a half?
He's crushed it. Because he's been great. And that's the thing, like we probably do, because what he inherited was a program that was spinning wheels from the end of the Mac Brown era through Charlie Strong, through Tom Herman. And it was like 8-5 was what they were. And
that's all he had been, really.
Right. And that's the interesting part, is what he's been able to do is build a really strong quarterback room. I mean, we can criticize Ewers all we want. He's great at Texas. They had that Ohio State-Texas game had 26 players drafted this year. And that's not counting the next 2 cycles. So he's assembled that NFL talent. He learned from Nick Saban. That's what he did. He learned from Nick and took those lessons, and you're at a program where you have the resources. Now you have college football's biggest celebrity, at least for 1 year, maybe 2, and the talent around them. I mean, we know they play high school ball in Texas, and get those guys to go to Texas with some good coaching, they should be this good.
Bill, so let me ask you a question there on Sark. Is it that we owe him an apology, or is it that he turned out to be someone he'd never been before?
A little bit of both. I think a little bit of because you can go back to the that same Ohio State game late in the game, some questionable play calling.
Yeah.
At the goal line where they couldn't punch it in, and that's still there. I mean, that pressure still exists. Ryan Day deals with that. Kirby deals with that. Nick used to deal with it at Alabama. But the fact that we're talking about Texas in that conversation, they probably will be ranked number one. And I don't think I pulled into Big Ten Media Day a couple years ago and saw the story that Texas was going to the SEC. There's no way in my brain that I thought Texas would be in the SEC championship game in their first year in the conference. So, I mean, they have made that adjustment.
Are you more surprised by Texas's success or by Oklahoma's struggles?
Probably Texas's success, because Oklahoma was on that they were struggling a little bit before that. Now, this is an interesting year for them because you bring in John Mateer and Jaden Ott, and I like both of those.
Everybody loves Mateer. We'll see.
Yeah, we got to see, right? Because he did have a good Washington State. He is a dual threat. They brought his offensive coordinator with him, but now the level raises when not playing against a Pac-12 schedule with a bunch of Mountain West schools. Well, the Pac-12 schedule being one other team, Oregon State. And now you're going to the SEC. So we will see. And I think Oklahoma, going back to me pulling into Big Ten Media Day, I probably would have thought at the time Oklahoma would have an easier time adjusting based on where the program was. But that, again, is a nod to what Sark's been able to do.
No pun intended, but we get probably like a week-long bender here, starting with the 23rd. And relative to the teams that you think will impact conference play. So in Dublin, you get K-State and Iowa State. That's on the 23rd. But on the 30th and 31st, you get Florida and Notre Dame, and you get LSU and Clemson. If I'm taking those three games and conference players are going to be at stake, and you maybe take Notre Dame out of it because of they're an independent, but on the national landscape, which one of those games do you think will end up having the most significance?
Probably Clemson LSU, because it's Clemson against an SEC school again. Those were the losses last year.
Yeah.
Everything else is pretty good other than the Louisville game. And then for LSU, I mean, it is a fact that they have not won in the opener since Joe Burrow led the team to the national title in 2019. They've lost to Mississippi State, UCLA, Florida State a couple times. They lose last year to USC. I mean, that's a streak of 5 straight openers.
And he's 2-7 against the top. He's 2-7 against ranked opponents since 22.
Yeah, so I mean that's the pressure point for LSU. Miami Notre Dame is a very interesting game, but I mean Notre Dame proved last year they can lose early and get back in it. Miami, same.
I think it's a big year in Coral Gables, though, for me. I think.
Well, it's a big year because Carson Beck's there too. Yeah. So they did get to 10 wins. We do the U is back thing every year, and I mean, if you want to win some money for trivia, you just tell somebody, do you know that Miami's never won the ACC? That is crazy. Like when they joined the ACC with Florida State, I wouldn't have thought that in 1,000 years, that they would have gone this long without winning an ACC championship. So that to me is I'll say that when they do that.
I think I bring in the whole Farmageddon K-State Iowa State thing because I think those are two teams that are going to be flying under the radar that have really good quarterbacks that the nation may not be all in on yet.
Correct. And Avery Johnson and Rocco Beck have both. Avery Johnson second year, Rocco Beck third year starter. If you look at preseason, like post-spring top 25s, I know we have them ranked back-to-back. And they're probably right behind Arizona State with Leavitt, BYU in most rankings. And you'll see 5 or 6 Big 12 teams ranked. What a fun conference.
Yeah, TCU's got to be there somewhere, right?
They're right there with Hoover as well.
Okay.
So with these quarterbacks that are all about the same, another one that I got some late season buzz.
Texas
Baylor.
Tech. Oh, okay.
Texas Tech, you can throw them. We have that Texas Tech in our top 25.
I think
So,
I was 2 years early on Tech, and then I got off last year, and now they're back. So apparently, if you're in Texas, oil money's good because you can crush the portal between SMU, Tech, and everybody else.
For sure. And I think the fact that conference has a little bit of throw a dart feel to it, it's good for the conference. I don't know if it's good for the playoff because you have a hard time building a national title contender, but you know what? I really enjoyed Big 12 football last year.
I hate to ask about this team because they're kind of the A&M. Well, formerly they're both in the SEC now, but they are the A&M of the Big 12. But do you like Auburn this year? Because they're intriguing.
They've got some buzz because of the receivers around Jackson Arnold, so they can they protect him? And Hugh Freeze, when he's got the right quarterback, they're pretty good. But they've fallen at like Oklahoma range to me. That I like what you did in the portal, but you've got to show it on the field. And Jordan Hare can be a home field advantage. It can be a very strong one, but you got to win the games there. So I think it is a pivotal year for Hugh Freeze at Auburn. There are some, we don't have them ranked, others do, and I didn't criticize that because I could see it. Cam Williams is a good receiver. They've got they have Keldrick Falk on the other side of the ball. There's a really good defensive lineman, but they've got to go out and do it.
More apt to reach what the perception is. I think the perception is, and you can correct me if you disagree. Indiana was a little bit of a flash in the pan, and Illinois is on the come this year. Which one of those narratives do you think is closer to being true? Is Illinois going to be that team? Does Indiana come back to the pack, or something different?
Probably both. I think for Indiana, D'Angelo Pons, Kamara, they've got some good pieces. They bring in Mendoza. Signetti proved he can coach. I had a coach, I think, was it you guys that somebody told me, I was on a show last year where they said he's a guy that isn't going to get beat unless you just have so much more talent that you're going to beat him.
That was my takeaway from the Big Ten media days. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and that was reality last year. Like Ohio State had more talent, and Notre Dame had more talent. Michigan gave them problems because they had a lot more talent. Now, can they do it again? That's going to be tough. And I like Mendoza, but we'll see. And their schedule's tougher. So it's really interesting to me. 10-win team, a lot of guys coming back, a lot of production coming back, and Luke Altmaier. And they get Ohio State at home. I keep going back to that bowl game with Brett Bielema in South Carolina. They play with a little bit of an edge. And we've seen him make this formula work before. So I probably believe in Illinois, a potential playoff team, if they can stay in that top four in the Big Ten.
Okay, Bill, last thing for me here, and it's because DB brought up Indiana, so I'm going to blame it on him. And I'm sure if you could predict this, you'd be too rich to be talking to us. But who do you look at as potential, and maybe it is Illinois, but as potentially the Arizona State or Indiana of the world, or maybe even an SMU that might crash the party this year?
Well, I mentioned, Illinois could be that team. I think, you just got to choose your Big 12 adventure, probably. That's the best bet.
I'd lean BYU, given the context of the question for me.
Yeah, that or perhaps South Carolina can push in there in the SEC.
Are you in on Sellers?
The SEC is you can make a case for South Carolina or Florida, but Florida, it's like we're not going to be blown away if they do that. Now, if Lenora Sellers carries South Carolina to the college football playoff, that would be a little bit of surprise because their roster is good. Got an edge rusher. Dylan Stewart's really good, but it's more than that. And can they get through that schedule and be maybe a third or fourth SEC team to get in the playoffs? So they're kind of in that range of we've hyped up South Carolina before, but can they actually do it?
Okay, two quickies. Lagway or Sellers?
I like more over the next 2 years, but I probably like Sellers right now.
All in or all out on Quinn Ewers? Or not Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning.
In. I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching him. And if they win at Ohio State in week one, none of us, the three of us, anybody on the planet is going to be able to control the hype.
all in or all out on this being the last year in Madison for Fickell?
Now, I think they do a little bit better. But, if they're 5-7 or 6-6 again, he may reevaluate what he wants to do.
That is our guy, Bill Bender from the Sporting News. Bill, appreciate it as always. Great stuff. We'll talk to you soon.
Good stuff, Bill. Appreciate it.
Hey, have a great week, guys. Thanks so much.
That is Bill Bender from the Sporting News.
You in or out on Fickle?
I like him as a coach. I don't think it works out at Wisconsin.
Lagway or Sellers? I don't like either.
I was going to say, you're putting me in a bad spot here. Can I pass?
I'll
take Sellers this year.
I'll probably take Sellers too.
I'll take Sellers this year. But I don't love either one of them. Here's the one thing I'm going to say about Illinois. And I like Illinois. My boys over there. They have made back-to-back bowl games one time in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, when Robert Rosenthal from Illini board comes over here and tells us that they're not good 2 years in a row, that's what he's talking about. They've made back-to-back bowl games once in 30 years. That was Ron Zook going 7-6 in his last 2 years. That got him fired, by the way.
Who wins the Big 12?
Lord only knows. I mean, what do you think about Arizona State again?
I like Arizona State. I
don't kind of ignoring him.
I don't love Leavitt like everybody else does, but I do think he's.
I think Dillingham a lot.
Me too.
I think Dillingham's really good. So if I'm saying Arizona State, it's more about Dillingham.
I like Leavitt more than Avery
Johnson.
Yeah,
I would agree.
But K-State has a fantastic coach.
Yes, also true.
I don't know how much Connor Riley hurts him.
Yeah. I do like BYU. I always like BYU. You know this about me.
They're my party crasher right now. They won 11 games.
I know. I was big on BYU last year. I was hoping they would sneak their way in. But I mean, are we not giving Texas Tech enough credit either?
I'm a little gun shy.
Okay.
No pun intended.
No, I get you.
Little gun shy on Tech.
Watch, it's gonna be Matt Campbell.
Well, they've cost me. Like
it's gonna.
I've been on the Texas Tech hype train.
You just sit here and watch. It's gonna be Matt Campbell.
Well, they're in the discussion,
and
now.
He's gonna do his thing. And nobody's gonna pay attention until they're like, "Wait, Iowa State's in the Big 12 championship? How did that happen?"
Yeah, like I'm telling you, that game in August 23rd is Iowa State K-State.
That's gonna be awesome.
That is gonna be a great game.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. That's a great way to start the season. Incredible way to start the season.
And then you get the 30th and the 31st. Come on, man.
30th and the 30th. Can I just say this real quick about the John Mateer thing? Because every time somebody brings up his name, I give you a funny face.
Yeah.
He played 2 Power 5 schools last year. Texas Tech and Washington in the second and third games of the season.
Yeah, he wasn't good.
He was a combined, let me quick math here, 26 for 53. I don't know if you know that. That's below 50%.
Uh-huh.
For a combined 360 yards, that's 180 a game. Not great. 2 total touchdowns, 2 total interceptions. Now, he ran wild against Texas Tech. But that's also where about over 25% of his total rushing yards from the year was that. No, just that game. Just Texas Tech. So I'm sitting there and I go, okay, I get that he's getting credit for the dual threat thing. That's obviously in there. But it's not a consistent thing.
The best pickup of a transfer quarterback, I don't know if it's the easy one would be Beck. I don't love Beck.
Yeah.
Mendoza going to Indiana is interesting. I like Mendoza.
Let me ask you this question. 64% completion, just under 2,900 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Yeah.
Could Dylan Raiola have done that against Portland State, Texas Tech, Washington, San Jose
I love
State,
how you
Boise
ride
State,
for
Fresno
Dylan.
State, Hawaii, San Diego State, Utah State, New Mexico,
Yeah,
Wyoming?
probably.
He could have done that, right?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. But we're in love with John Mateer. I'm just asking the question. I'm just asking the question.
Noted.
This is the thing we do with transfers.
I know. Noted.
I need us to, maybe John Mateer is going to be great at Oklahoma. It's entirely possible. But let's not act like it is some anointed, unquestionable thing where we sort of forget about Carson Beck, who actually has been successful at a super high level at a really competitive place to play. And we sit here and go, Carson Beck to Miami. I don't know if that's a big deal. You don't think the ACC is going to be easier to win in than Georgia?
Well,
I know you don't like Carson Beck, and that's fine. But, in context, I'd rather take my chances with Carson Beck going from SEC Georgia to ACC Miami than I would John Mateer going from Washington State and that crap schedule to Oklahoma and the SEC.
Got a thing with crap today, don't you?
Stop pooping on my porch, man. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back.
Ravi and Billy Madison.
He called the shit poo. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Live.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's just exciting. You got the blood flowing, man. Anything you can do for your boys, man. It's so exciting to see that and just be able to be in that opportunity to be put in that position. You know, you had Swanee and somebody else in front of us who was just like, who got it done for us, man. And it's just like, praise Jesus for it all. And I'm just so thankful to be here with this team. And it's so exciting.
We haven't played at home all season, and our fans have been really hungry for it. We did play a game in Iowa that they traveled for, but anytime you can give out rings and raise a championship banner, it's special. And sure, we've been able to do it twice and been one of the winningest men's professional teams in North American soccer, and we don't take that for granted. But each one feels better and better. So really super excited for the fans and the players to get that hardware, and I made sure it's pretty special.
Designing it, what were things that you wanted out of the rings?
It was hard because we did a perfect ring a couple of years ago when we won, and we have some different iterations of the logo. So we wanted to do something commemorating the Players' Shield, which is winning the regular season, which in Europe is probably a bigger deal than winning the playoffs. Commemorating the 2 trophies and commemorating Omaha and our owl. So I'm excited to show you all, what it's gonna look like.
Command's a lot better. He's kind of settling in. He got really tested early in the season. I think he got to the point where he realized he needed to really grow and mature, or it was going to be somebody else's turn. And to his credit, the competitor kind of came out in him, and he's really just commanded the ball better. He's throwing more sliders, less curveballs as well, and the changeup's been a weapon. I think he's throwing that to right-handed hitters too, and it's helped him keep the ball in the ballpark a lot better.
At Centros Federal Credit Union, we have the tools and resources to help our members fulfill their financial goals. With a focus on building a stronger community for the next generation of leaders. Centros Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Yeah, I think it starts with starting pitching. Ty Horn obviously was great today, but he's been great the last 4 weekends, and I'm sure Brock will do the same tomorrow. So really, thing for us was just kind of playing team baseball. Throughout the year, it's we pitched good one game, then we wouldn't really hit well. We hit good, then we pinched well. So finally, at the end of the season, we're playing together as a team. I think it's been the big difference for us.
And on your senior day, embracing a different role and retiring every batter you faced today, what was your mindset coming out of the bullpen?
Yeah, just get the first batter. It's really all you can control coming out of the bullpens, and then after that, just keep cruising, stay on attack, throw strikes, and just finish them late.
that hot sauce, no pico, give me that.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Central Federal Credit Union, reminding you if you're looking for a new vehicle this summer, go check out centrusfcu.org. Could be your daily driver, could be maybe a little bit more recreational vehicle. Maybe you want to enjoy a motorcycle like Stephen M. Sipple out on these summer roadways. Centrus has you covered with the product, services, and most importantly, the expertise that you need to get on the road. It's centrusfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA. DB.
What's up?
So I'm looking over at the television screen over here.
Hello. I'm still laughing now. Like, before I finished my Jeremiah Smith take, and I was like, oh boy.
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
He was about to Carl.
No, I'm not telling you he's not a good player. He's a great player. I'm just the pushback is not gonna be on his own volition.
I thought you did a good job of contextualizing that your feelings about him are not his fault.
Yeah.
It's about the way everybody else talks about him, right? When people are like, oh, he would start for XYZ NFL team right now. It's like, come on, chill. Like, just chill.
Is this are we sure like the best player in college football isn't? I don't know. I mean, Jeremiah Love's pretty good.
Yeah. Really good. Also, I thought Bill made a good point that he might not even be the best player on his own team. Like, Caleb Downs is really good.
Yeah, he's incredible.
That dude's unreal. And I get the production difference between Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. My eye kind of fits what Ryan Williams does a little bit better. It's a little flashier.
Although it would be different a lot of that's just, I don't know.
Like contextually, if he's a different system, different quarterback, like it looks different as well. I get physically they're different guys, but no, I did think it was funny that you couldn't even get out. People, whoa.
I don't know.
He gave you the Rockets. Regular.
Yeah, it was oh boy, like where's this dude going with this? Oh boy.
Whoa. I do wonder,
if Georgia can catch the football this year, they'll be really good.
Yeah, catching the football is important.
I mean, they got Branch. If you can keep him
kind of locked in.
Yeah. Zachariah Branch is out there.
I do wonder.
But you got Noah Thomas too, so that'll be legit.
I do wonder. Like, this might be your fault with that. Like that Kirby Smart thing kind of rattles around in my head a lot.
I'm telling you, did he come out of the other end?
Whereas I don't know.
Yeah,
because obviously he didn't like it enough on the front end.
Yeah, but you got to get some credit for Klubnik's development too, right? You went out and got what we thought was one of the better OC hires a year ago.
Oh, you're talking Dabo?
And McClintock agreed with us.
Yeah.
So that paid immediate dividends for Klubnik. But is Klubnik better than we thought? Because he used to really like to throw it to the other team, and now not so much.
Yeah, and he's a guy that you look at early 2026 draft boards. He's a guy people look at as a possible first-round pick next year. Now they're also throwing like a Lenore Sellers in there, and a lot of people throw Arch Manning in there if he comes out. And there's one more that I'm missing. Drew Aller is the one that gets thrown in there a lot as well, who I know that at certain times we haven't always loved the Drew Aller experience either. But
remember 2 years ago, I felt like I was the great defender. A guy that had thrown like 2 interceptions yet, and he was still but
yeah,
he was like 20, and he's a 10-1 touchdown interception guy. I'm like, yeah, but
more than that, I think it was aggressive. It was like 24, 27-2. It was crazy.
I know one thing. You know who quietly I think that is the one coach that that would be the last for us to say that has the most pressure on him.
Franklin?
Yes. If he doesn't win, if not this year, then when?
Yeah, like he's got to beat Ohio State. Because at this point, with the way it's set up, making the playoffs not going to be good enough.
You're loaded.
Right?
Yeah.
Like he's in a spot where making the playoff isn't good enough.
You're loaded.
Alabama and Georgia and a lot of these teams are in spots where making the playoff.
And you got the great.
Isn't good enough.
Jim Knowles.
The great. You sound like you're being a little facetious there.
I'm just saying.
Seemed like Ohio State was okay with parting with him, which seems weird.
Something wasn't right.
Something wasn't quite right. Oh, and then the guy that we always forget about, and I know at least last year you didn't love him, Garrett Nussmeier.
I don't. So let me clarify.
Okay.
I don't get it. I don't
get the obsession.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. But those are guys, I mean, those are all guys that are being looked at as first-round quarterbacks next year. Now, at this time last year, we were talking about guys that didn't end up being first-round quarterbacks this year, so I understand we're on the front edge of this.
You think there's pressure on your guy in Tallahassee?
Oh, Norvell, 100%. He just retooled the staff. If it doesn't go well this year,
we act like 2 years ago it just didn't happen.
Oh, by middle way through last year, we act like 2 years ago didn't happen.
Hey, coaches, get yours. We're such haters.
No, I get it. I do. Listen, they went 13-0, and by the time they were 0-4, people were like, we're out.
Mm-hmm.
Get it? Like, people were talking about him getting fired this year or that year. So he is a dude that if he does, he probably has to win. I mean, minimum 8 games, probably 9 to keep his job.
Do you want to go rapid fire real quick?
Because he retooled the staff, and I like Gus Malzahn, but yeah, go ahead. And then obviously Tony White.
Altmaier or Aller?
Aller.
Beck or Dante Moore?
Carson Beck.
Really?
Yeah. I like Carson Beck a little bit more than you.
I don't dislike Beck. I
think I like him a little bit more than you, though. Because here's the thing. I said this
we keep waiting for him.
Here's the thing.
And remember, he didn't win as the poster child.
He didn't win the job.
He still couldn't win that job.
Yeah. So here's the thing I liked about Carson Beck a little bit is there were times last year, and I get that this is kind of thing I get on coaches for, so I'm acknowledging it up front. He did a really good job last year of bouncing back from bad performances within the same game. Now, it's his fault that the performance was bad to start. I get that. What was it, the Alabama game where he throws 3 picks early, but then balls out in the second half? Like, a lot of guys don't have that in them, where they struggle that much early and could come back same game and go back and get it. So I like that about Carson Beck. Now, again, it's his fault that he threw the 3 picks, so like that's on the same page. But I like Carson Beck.
And you said Altmaier? So
Aller.
Aller or Beck?
So my gut said Beck immediately. It probably should be Aller.
So who is it?
I'm going to go Aller.
Aller or Lagway?
Aller.
Aller or Sellers?
Aller.
Aller or Manning?
Aller. I haven't seen it for Manning yet.
Okay. There should be a ton of pressure
on Penn State. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
How about the new guys? Mendoza or Mateer?
Just backing me in this corner here. I'm going to go Mendoza because I actually trust Cignetti more than I trust Venables and what's going on in Oklahoma. What about you? Let's back you into that corner.
I'm a Mendoza guy.
Yeah.
I don't even have to think about it.
Okay.
And I'm putting him with his coach. See, they're not going to obviously – 2 separate thoughts. It needs a semicolon. Easy for me to say Indiana takes a couple steps back because they were a playoff team.
Yeah, they were really high last year.
But I do think their demise is greatly exaggerated.
So when I say
greatly exaggerated,
I want to put context to that because when I say demise, I still think they're like 7-5, 8-4.
Yeah, they're better than 7 wins. I think.
But I think that's probably where they'll live for the most part moving forward. Is
fair.
Somewhere between 7 and 9 is probably where they'll live. I think. No, it's really good. Nebraska would take that tomorrow for the most part.
I
right?
see that I disagree with. We're not taking 7 tomorrow.
No, not for next year.
I don't even know if we'll take 8 tomorrow. I don't know if that's realistic or not, or fair or not. I'm just saying.
You think 9? You think we need 9?
Yeah, I disagree with 7 and 9.
Fair. I think. Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Vehemently, I disagree.
You're right. It's an easy thing to say because up until last year, everybody would basically say, "Oh, if Nebraska lived between 7 and 9 wins, we'd be thrilled to death because they hadn't been to a bowl game and whatever." But now that it's like, no, let's go get more than that.
Would you take Manning or Klubnik?
Klubnik. I've seen it. Like they just did. I'm glad you brought that up because they just did this on ESPN just now. Different sport, but they just did the same thing where they go, if you're a lottery team, would you rather have Cooper Flagg or Giannis Antetokounmpo because he just said he's open to a trade now. It's freaking Giannis. What are we talking about? Yeah. We have seen, I get Cooper Flagg's a nice prospect, and he was really good at Duke. Giannis is putting up peak Shaq numbers every year. Like, what are we talking about? That's not a discussion. For me, Klubnik is the known. It's the given. I've seen him be good. I know he can be good. Give me Klubnik. Arch Manning's not a discussion yet. Same thing with DJ Lagway, right? Like, I've seen some of DJ Lagway more than I have of Arch Manning, but I haven't seen him beat Klubnik. I haven't even seen him beat Carson Beck yet. Like, I'm not interested. If I have to pick between one or two for this year, I'm going with the guy I have the track record with because I have a much better opportunity for him to repeat that success than rolling the dice on a guy that hasn't done it yet.
Sounds weird to ask this question out loud in 2020.
And I understand I'm doing the same thing with Dylan, but it's fine.
Well, yeah.
I understand I'm talking out both sides of my mouth there. I get it. But if you gave me, like, and I love Dylan, but if you gave...
I shouldn't defend you. I should just let you hang yourself.
It's not very nice.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this. I'm kind of anti-lynchings.
Me too.
Listen, so what I'm saying is...
That's a platform we can agree on.
The thing with Dylan, I know what you're basing it on.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to do anything that is ridiculously crazy or...
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to go from...
I don't need him to be Joe Burrow 2019.
Yeah, you're just... So I don't
even need him to be Shador in Colorado last year.
I just think when you talk, and I hate to do this with athletic quarterbacks, I just think when you talk Lagway and Sellers and like Raiola or Mateer, or I shouldn't put Dylan in that category yet, but I can put Dylan in the Lagway discussion from a production standpoint.
Yeah, they're very similar.
It's natural to think fit and system and like what it actually takes for those guys to function at a high level in their respective systems. It's much, much, much more difficult, in my opinion, for Lagway and Sellers because it takes so much more out of you. So I don't have any problems with not wanting to make that extrapolation, but I also hate to say, well, guy just gets to run around and make plays because that isn't really what it is either.
No. I do think we assume that that's what it's going to be for some of these guys, though.
It is.
And that's why we
It's
don't
a little disingenuous.
And that's why we don't worry about the system or the players around him or the coaches or whatever, right? The other thing I will say about Dylan is, so when we're having this discussion, it's about, hey, do I take this guy this year to be better? Versus what does this person mean to the trajectory of the program overall? So it's a different discussion with Dylan than it is, would I take Klubnik 1 year over Mateer or Beck?
Well, Klubnik's really only had the one good year.
Yeah. That's more than we've got with some of the other guys, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or Aller. Aller's a good example. He's had a couple good years.
Yeah, like
right? Like he's had a couple good years.
It is crazy for as much as Aller has
for as good as he's been. And the numbers are good. Like, it's not just a win.
How maligned he is.
Yeah.
We laughed when how cold are my hands? Is that weird? They feel like they're freezing.
Well, I mean, you got pretty cold in here.
I turned it up to 66, I think. For as much as he wins and statistically, like what's his TD his TDs to interceptions has to be ludicrous.
You want to guess?
3 years?
2 full starting years.
He is 48-9.
53-10.
10, 11, 12.
He's 5-1.
That's funny.
That's stupid. Like he's 5-1. Now the completion percentage 2 years ago was probably not as good as you wanted, but it was.
And he's won what? 24 games, 25?
Yeah, like they're really good, and he's been really good. And so, and listen,
but I'm guilty because
I'm the one that came. He's coming off the 25-2 as a sophomore.
I
and I'm
told
like,
you it was 25-2, and you told me I was.
You said 21. I said it was 24-27. We were both wrong.
No,
we're all wrong.
I don't know about that.
So I'm sitting here, but I'm sitting here after 25-2, and I'm like, I don't know, kind of a check down.
Everybody was.
Yeah,
everybody we talked to nationally and that covered Penn State said the same thing.
Like, kind of a check down artist. Those numbers are a little inflated, and doesn't really make the throws you need him to win games. And yeah, he's pretty good.
Warren got a ton of credit last year, and he was force fed.
He's pretty damn good. So yeah, if you're giving me, in 1 year, without context, hey, who do I need for my quarterback to be? If I want good quarterback play, I'm probably taking Drew Aller over all the guys we talked about. If we're talking about the trajectory of a program and long-term and what they mean to a place, then that's where Dylan starts to mean something else to Nebraska than some of these other guys in this discussion.
Why do you think we don't think more of Altmaier?
Because he plays for Illinois.
They had 18 starters back. And I said how you feel about Illinois totally depends on if you think they were very good last year.
I think they were very good last year. I have a hard going against their history. You want to talk about –
because you bumped him. You booted him early, and he cut us up. It was like Ginsu, what he did to us.
But you put him Aller versus Altmaier in the first matchup. And I hemmed and hawed over it for a second, but I have to go Aller there. But, I thought about it.
Altmaier or Manning?
Altmaier.
Because you've seen it.
Because I've seen it. I know Altmaier's good.
But you're talking about a guy so this is the thing with projection. Like, a lot of people have Manning as, like, a day one guy.
That's fine.
You're just going by what you say. And I'm not debating it.
I'm going on what a guy that I know can play quarterback at the power 4 level this year.
Now, Altmaier is the king of the RPOs now. He gets a ton of easy throws.
He does. But he's really good in system.
Yeah.
Like, that matters.
I don't listen. I don't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's really good in
I just
want
to make sure
100%.
We're staying with apples.
I would, if you're talking to me who's a better draft prospect, I'm not telling you Luke Altmaier.
No, I understand.
If you're talking about who I need to win college football games next year and I get to pick a system that they get to run, I'm going to take Luke Altmaier because I know he can do it. Everything we're saying about Arch Manning, whatever you want to call him, is projection. We're guessing. We think, which is fine because a lot of times we're right, and that's part of the business. But if I get to choose between known production at a power 2 level or a guy that I'm hoping can do it, I'm taking the thing I know. Unless the thing I know is bad. And then I'm going to go the other way and go for the projection.
No, I know why he said this to you, but I know that's not what you're saying. Because you're talking about – so by that logic, Ravi, Alex Bullock is better than Isaiah Mosey.
That's not what I'm saying. Again.
That's where you need the caveat of what it takes for the guy to function at this. What kind of energy do you have to exert, and who are you doing it with?
Yeah. And also, like, we look at –
I think he's messing with you.
He probably is.
He is. He said
like, you look at Alex Bullock, you go, okay, like, yes, there is more production than Isaiah Mosey, but we're talking about a guy that had – how many – I'm off the top of my head. Alex Bullock probably has, 300 career receiving yards?
That's probably high.
Okay, so, like, I was being generous there. We're not talking about a guy that had 1,100 receiving yards.
A better one, and I don't even know if it would be tongue-in-cheek, would be like the pass rushing specialist, because that's what irritates you the most.
Yeah.
Because the hard part with offensive guys, especially receivers, is they need help.
They're so dependent. Yeah, they're super dependent.
Like defensive guys a lot of times. Like, are we sure that the collection of depth on the second level, including the Jacks, isn't deeper than a year ago?
Oh, it's definitely deeper. And my point is, because I actually think this is in my favor. This is why when I say, okay, look at the production isn't crazy to replace. They're not replacing Randy Gregory out there. They're replacing James Williams, who had 5 sacks, which is nice. Like, that's a good story for James Williams. But you're telling me you can't find a single guy to give you 5 sacks? You're telling me you can't find a single guy to give you 2 sacks, which is what Jamari Butler gave you? You're telling me you can't find a single guy to give you 3.5 sacks, which I think is what MJ Sherman gave you? Like, you can't find 2, 3.5, or 5 sacks amongst all the people who I think have more talent. So that would be me looking at like a DJ Lagway and be like, hey, I get the talents there in a Princewell.
You know what's funny is I'm thinking about this whole production versus scheme.
Yeah.
Sam wanted me to get into it, but I have, though, kind of. And it's more to defend you when I talk about Butler being creative and multiple fronts and putting guys
and what they're trying to do.
I just remember these conversations where, we would call defensive plays, and this is at the high school level, we'd call defensive plays. And, after a couple of weeks, Coach Lamanji would say, hey, I don't like my guys on the move. Don't put them on the move. Okay. Other years, it may be, hey, we're not going to hold up at the point of attack.
Probably move
We
around a bit.
We got to put them on the move.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just like
different strategies for different players for different teams.
Definitely do matter.
Yeah,
if I get a guy like Ty who I know can occupy, is going to command the double and get the push, I probably don't have to run too many slants or black or red or whatever.
Yeah, you don't have to scheme it up.
You can just go play ball.
Just say, hey, Ty, do your thing. Go be Ty. That's why I always ask, what do you mean by better? Because this defensive line would be worse at running what last year's defensive line ran.
Yeah.
Like if they were asked to do the exact same things, I agree, they're worse. I don't think they're going to be asked to do the exact same things because I don't think this coaching staff is stupid.
Yeah.
And that's what it would be to ask.
You think you have more versatility if you play Keona next to Riley
versus
Nash versus Ty.
Yes.
You can be different. You don't have to necessarily do the same.
And different can be better, but it's not going to look the same.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I sit here and I go, okay, let me look at how the coaching staff has changed and how I think that coaching staff is going to use these players. And I'm not just going to sit here and say it's a given that this won't be a better defensive line. I'm not ready to do that. Just like I'm not ready to sit here and say Dana Holgerson with Dylan Raiola is not going to be better than DJ Lagway or Lenore Sellers or Arch Manning or whoever else. I don't know. But I like the player in context of the coaching more than I like a lot of this other stuff.
Yeah.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's Hurrdat Sports Live. We'll be back tomorrow here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.